going to my mind's going blank now. What's happening? What, I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm in prison. Where am I? No idea. Last night on the television, I was on a telephone rapidly rising and with I don't know. COVID has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's lives reflected in the NHEI. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foot in we're going to seize the ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. NATO's purpose is to defend against aggression. Let me make that near and dear to you that you would like to be able to. Anyway. My mind's going blank now. What's happening? What, I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm in prison. Where am I? No idea. I don't think as the idea that political coverage. I want to thank and recognize Dr. John Kingerson. That song. I can't get this to function at all. My mind's going blank now. What's happening? What, I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are you? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm in prison. Where am I? No idea. No idea. No idea. No
idea. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Sunday, February 2nd, 2025, folks. Welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania. Are you ready? I see you. Hey, Sawabona. I see you, in fact. Yes, that's right. Ja, ich sehe dich. Ich sehe euch. Ich sehe euch. See you all. Tout le monde. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen, on a Sunday. Sunday, Bloody Sunday. It was once upon a time a very good song by YouTube before they went so woke. But frankly, they were woke from the very beginning. I mean, Sunday, Bloody Sunday was about the Troubles, in case you didn't know that. I think most people knew that, but not everybody did. Welcome back. Lots of folks in the chat. Thank you for joining us here today. We'll get to it in here in just a second and say hello to everybody that's in the chat. But I just wanted to say I couldn't resist. Time for a golden oldie there. My mind's going blank. Joe Biden doing a guest appearance. Joe Biden's rap song on our program today. We're going to miss Joe. Not. I think he's in Napa somewhere sipping down wine right now or getting his diaper changed. I'm not sure which. But he will not be missed. And Greg is giving us lessons how to pronounce Zloty correctly. It's Zota, not Zloty. But thank you for that, Greg. I prefer Zloty. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's say hello to everybody. Chris Ehlers is here. Sedgefield is back in from the garden route. George Steinberg in from Heckport. Lekadog, Fundog, Lasnog, 39 millimeter rain. Woo, that's a lot of rain, man. Mark Myberg, good evening to you. And Petra Myberg, hello. Awe Masakina. All right, Vilma Rasmus is here. Everybody's going into the Afrikaans today. Is this a challenge to me? Am I up to the challenge? Greg has been from the Poland, of course. Pierogi. Oh, I love pierogies. Me eats lots of pierogies, but I don't want any onions in my pierogies. I'm sorry. Just cheese. Cheese pierogies. Something I got from my time in Scranton back when I was a kid. You know, not Joe. Me in Scranton. I actually lived in Scranton. I wasn't there for, 5 seconds like Joe was and claim, I'm just Lunch Pail Joe from Scranton. No, I actually lived in Scranton. The anthracite capital of the world. There it is. Greg says Zloty is pronounced non-native people. Yeah, that is the way to detect them here. Well, it's like the Canadian detector. So let me ask you about what's going. Whoop whoop whoop! Canadian alert! Canadian alert! The other time is if you just want to get proof someone's a Canadian, just get into a conversation about hockey and say something that's completely wrong. Just say something that's completely wrong. No, I think that, the fact that hockey has 3 centers on the ice at the same time. No, excuse me. No, there aren't 3 centers. There's just one. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm telling you. And Canadian alert. I'll tell you what, man. Useful tool. Anyway, Mark Myberg. That's not a bad thing about Canadians. I'm just saying you can identify them that way. I mean, they look and sound just like us. They're black and white, just like us. You got Native First Nations, Native Americans, just like us. So I can't tell them apart unless they talk about things. Yep, Hendo is here. D. Barron, welcome back, George. Erica, welcome, Erica. And who else we got? Arc Precision, Diane Humple. Miss Pum is here. Lindrea Myberg. Okay, and then Chris Ehlers. I think I mentioned her. Miss Pumba, Holden Caulfield, Jean-Tel van Heerden. Wow, Vatten Moelita. Yeah, it's a beautiful little song. It is. Yeah. Plekken is on. It's a beautiful song. I agree with you there, Jean-Tel. Sue Walsh is here. Almost missed Sue there. Elizabeth Krug is back again. Go to the chopper. That's an Arnold Schwarzenegger reference. His character was named Kruger. And Anna Marie Nell is back. She's not regaling us with any stories of F1. It must be off season for that. And what else we got here? Love the... What's that? Love the what? Love the Biden. My mind's going blank song. Well, Greg, you're just seeing it. We've been playing it for months in the build-up to the election. Willem Peters is here. William, not Willem. Monray Siebritz in from Cape Town. Didn't tell us he's in Cape Town today, though. And RS. Welcome, RS. And who else we got here? Am I missing someone? All right. RJ, peace of Christ be with you all. That would be nice, especially on a Sunday. Gabriel in der von der Schweiz. Ja, na, wie geht's, der Altknabe? Servus, salve. In der Schweiz. Yeah, welcome, Gabriel. Good to see you again. And King Gordon is here. Oh, I bow before you, mighty King Gordon. Yeah, and then 25% tariffs on the ANC. I don't know about that. Trump's talking about 100% on BRICS countries. There are BRICS countries, so watch out. Yeah. Who else is old enough to remember the capital letters stories? I'm not sure what that is. Just been skiing, and in 2 weeks, I'll be sunbathing in Cape Town. Gabriel, I was just skiing too last week. Unfortunately, the rain came and ruined all the snow. I don't know if they've put more snow out because they've got snowmakers machines on the slopes, but I'll have to go check it out now that that's happened. Temperatures get a little colder. I was warmer. It was above freezing when I went. Now it's 26 degrees Fahrenheit, so that puts it at about -3 or -4. It was +2 or 3 when I went, so much nicer. It was a beautiful day when I went out there. Fantastic. Really enjoyed my skiing that day. First time I've been skiing since 2011 at the New Zealand Rugby World Cup. So Brian Hudson's here. Welcome. Brian's in from Durban. Good to see you all. Anyway, folks, let's get on to it here. I just dropped another video for those who are curious, in case you're wondering. Just dropped another video, and it's already got 286 views in the first 6 minutes. Wow, that's pretty cool. Thank you all for that. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So good start to that video. And we're still doing well on the channel, in case people are curious. My Trump video that I did that's really sparked a lot of attention on the channel is 163,000 views. And I think part of that's because people are sharing it on social media, people that have large number of followers on social media in South Africa. Thank you for that. I'm just astounded how a lot of people haven't heard of me yet in South Africa, but I know why. It's because of the behavior of the social media keeping me from being seen there. So, beautiful German girl sings a similar song to McDonald. Huh? What are you talking about there, Garrett? Welcome, Garrett, in from Somerset West. Yeah, so that one there is really done. It's very well for us on the channel. We've had some good videos after that as well. The load shedding video came in around 10,000. South Africa expropriation debacle conversation with Rob Hersoff. That one's still going. Still going, pinning up about 700 views per hour right now, which is pretty good. And that video has got 28,000 views after I edited it because the audio wasn't working in the beginning. There was a problem with the streaming, but I had it in Zoom, so I reloaded the Zoom interview. The initial one that was left online when it was live had 5,000 views. Then the subsequent has 28,000 views. So 33,000 for the interview with Rob Hersoff. I think that might be the best performing interview I've ever done. I think the closest, best one before that would have been Conscious Caracal a couple of times, and Steve Hofmeyer. I think Steve Hofmeyer was the best one I ever had from 2020. So, yeah. Wow. Greg says, I'll watch it later on. That's cool. Yeah, and then we did another one on South Africa's land invasion, and that one is slowing down now, but it's still getting about 2,000 plus views per hour. And thank you for that. Now, some people accuse me of, scaremonger, fearmonger. I'm not doing that. I'm simply telling you what happened. There are people up there who are occupying land, and the municipality of Polokwane is doing nothing about it that we can see at the moment. And the reason I reported on the story is because no one else is reporting on it. The local reporter and observer covered the story because the paper is based in Polokwane, and the SABC, to their credit, sent a journalist up there who covered the story. And these people are arrogant. We will occupy this land. The president has given us the authority to occupy and expropriate this land. No, you have no such authority. And for the entire history of the ANC, whenever people occupied land illegally, they removed them. Either the government or they sent the red ants out to do it in Joburg. So the response is important here because this could open the floodgates to people misbehaving all over the country. And that is the last thing South Africa needs right now. So it wasn't clickbaity from a standpoint. It wasn't meant to fearmonger. It's simply a statement of what's going on. And, if you don't like that, that's not on me, man. So that video, let's see how it's doing. That video is at 58,000 views. Thank you for that. I put that on. Now, I think about videos on YouTube. You got to be careful because when you publish on YouTube, if it doesn't take off immediately, and it languishes, then they might not promote it. But right now they are letting people see my videos, which is encouraging, not as much as I'd like, but they are showing it to some people. So I took a risk because no other media outlet had covered that story with the exception of the Polokwane Reporter Observer and the SABC. And most people hadn't heard about this land invasion thing taking place up there in Shishego in Polokwane. So I figured I better get on this story. It's rare that I get a breaking story in South Africa. So I had this one, and obviously I have the analysis. I went straight into it, and I put it up. So I took the risk, and it paid off. Last night I had 3,300 people, 3,500 people watch this thing when it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in South Africa. So that was very encouraging. And now it's at 58,000. So thank you for that. Very excited. You might be going, why are you so concerned about views? Because YouTube has a way of building on itself. If we can build momentum, and grow a large subscriber base, then we can do what we want to do. We'd have a lot more flexibility. So I will continue doing what I'm doing, and hopefully, Chris says, I got that story from you. You are correct, Chris. I did get the story from Chris Ehlers. I didn't want to attribute it to anybody, but Chris did tip me off to that story. Thank you for that. Yep. Renette is saying, are you talking to me, Renette, or the other Chris? Well, pretty good. Thank you. I'm just a little bit tired. It's been a whirlwind 2 weeks since Trump took office, and it never stops. Trump has now put in place his tariffs against China, Canada, and Mexico, and South Africa. You might be in the cards too. Wow, it's rained so hard I can hardly hear, says Vilma. Wow, that's crazy. Do you have a tin roof? Because Congress has a tin ear. Henry says testing. Okay, there you go. I knew it. Thank you, Henry. Patrick wants to know if I've seen any Leon Schuster movies. Of course, I've seen Mr. Bones and all of his movies back in the day. Yep. Yeah, we went right past 26,000 subscribers. That went pretty quickly. Sue Walsh said, enjoyed your Rob Hersoff interview and look forward to Gayton. Well, so do I. And I can confirm to you that I've heard back from Rob Hersoff on at least 4 occasions since the interview. And Rob has, in fact, told me he's contacting some folks. So we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. And Gabriel enjoyed the conversation with Rob Hersoff. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. Wesley Cruz says, I've been following your channel for a few months. Love your passion for rugby. It's great hearing your political insights. Well, thank you, Wesley Cruz. Hopefully you won't take offense to my butchering of your surname. It's not easy for, non-Afrikaners to pronounce that weird G sound, but we always have a little fun with it when we talk to Ronaldo Goes. By the way, I would ask once again, since there are obviously some people in here who aren't normally here or who have come to the channel recently, I would ask that you please, because it's not really getting done. I need people to go check this video out. So I'm going to put the link up here, okay? Because it only has 1,000 views, and it's so frustrating. This is a really, you can go watch it and then tell me I'm wrong, but this is a really good documentary on South Africa's wine industry, on Goed Constantia. Not now, but watch this later on if I can get some more views out of this and share this. I did this 2 years ago, and the Petsu Film Crew is an aspiring filmmaker. He was my producer and editor, and I was the on-air talent, and it was the first thing we did when I got to South Africa. Boom. Landed in South Africa, and we did this. It was pretty wild. Went straight out there and did the deal. So, and this Ria Vitamin says Polokwane is Malema area. Yeah, okay. Do you know about Lloyd de Jong? No, RJ, who is Lloyd de Jong? Okay. Yeah, so that video on Ruud Constantia, I think you'll enjoy it. It's very entertaining and very informative. And I was with the CEO of Ruud Constantia. So, all right. Sullivan Fundameva says East London. Hey, people are calling, writing in. Where you? Okay, well, there we go. Where are you guys from? If you're new to the channel or new to chatting in the channel, if you want to let people know where you're from, that's great. If I remember, I do a call out to people. Some people, it's just second nature now. We also have nicknames for some of our viewers. Of course, Paulie has self-proclaimed himself the brains behind the operation. I'm not really sure how he got that title, but Paulie claims that. So we just humor him, and he is the brains behind the operation. Charles Van Alston, I call the voice of reason because Charles is always pretty level-headed, and our analysis tends to come in pretty close, similar. So he's the voice of reason. And then we've got Dylan Combrick, who is always here. So he's one of the usual suspects. Yeah, so we've got little nicknames for some folks. Anyway. Raynette, watch the wine video. Okay, yeah, it was pretty good. And there's Chris Murray. Welcome, Chris Murray. Capture the video, open a new tab. It will be in the third queue. All right, there you go, Craig. That's how I do things. I wasn't trying to get pissed. I had almost no wine that day, but I wasn't driving, so it worked out really well. Must admit, very happy to see your vids pop up in my feed recently. Never happened before. Maybe Putu was waking up, stopping the shadow bang. Levin, I think that what's going on is that the YouTube is catching on that they're missing out on ad revenue by silencing people who are doing nothing wrong, who violate no community standards, who commit no egregious behavior, who simply offer cogent, lucid, insightful, and frankly, you know, forward-thinking analysis of events. So yeah, it's good to see. Good to see you there, Levin. Yeah, no, a lot of people tell me they're seeing my stuff, but I also want to thank you. There's a couple people who've been putting stuff on Twitter who have large Twitter followerships for South Africa, large. And thank you for your effort to spread my videos. Yeah, I have actually been getting people contacting me, asking for me to interview them. That's unusual. It's been a long time since that's been the case. The last time that was the case was 2020. I had viewers saying, hey, would you interview this person? Would you interview this person? And I would contact people on my own as well. And back then, some people were like, hey, I'd like to come on your program, or I'd like you to come on my program. That hasn't happened in a long time because I've just not disappeared, but just been held down so hard. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to get too excited, but we have had a lovely, let me just give you an idea how things are going here, folks. So when hang on a second here. Let me look at the analytics for subscribers, because I know people are looking at the subscriber base. So, all right. So this channel on January 29th, that isn't right. January 22nd, excuse me. January 22nd had 21,289. Okay. So we are just about 75 subscribers short, which we should hit the next hour or two, the way things are going, of adding 5,000 subscribers in the last 10 days. Wow, that's awesome. That's incredible. And put this in perspective, we go back 90 days, the last 90 days. 90 days ago, we had 19,800 subscribers on the channel. So we had about 8,000 fewer subscribers on the channel just 3 months ago. If we go back a year ago, 1 year ago, we had just 14,000 subscribers. So we've added 12,000, nearly doubled the channel since last year. And most of that growth has come just in the past 90 days. So yeah, pretty cool. All right. Yeah. So, and while I'm sitting here, we just added 3 new subscribers. Whoever they are, thank you so much for joining. Wow. My Trump video is already at 644 views. I just published it. Whoa. Okay. That's good news. Yeah, there it goes. It's taken off. Thank you so much for that. Let me see how much hate mail I've got on that. No hate mail yet. So these are probably my viewers. The dislikes come in later on. King Gordon said, love the way Trump uses tariffs to build U.S. manufacturing, lower taxes. It's a real populist way. Well, if it works, it's a populist way. I started to make a video today about Trump and tariffs on Canada, but I ran out of time. There's so much to do, so many things, and I've still got to do my taxes. But I mean, plenty of time, but I want to do them early this year because last year I was only able to do them late because I was running for political office. And I had to do them in the midst of running for office, do my taxes. It's such a pain. But I had a huge return last year, which I used for, quite frankly, I used most of my tax return last year to pay for my political campaign. Yeah. Well, in fact, I used all of it to pay for my political campaign, so I got nothing back for my taxes. Even though my tax return last year was larger than the previous 7 years combined. I usually do my taxes so that I come out as even as possible so that they don't get my free money during the year, interest-free. Trudeau has imposed tariffs in the U.S. Yes, he has, and they can keep his Canadian-built cars in Ottawa. He can keep his maple syrup. He can keep his oil sands oil. We don't need it, and we'll see how it goes. Canada will break first before America does. Trust me. Trust me. Yeah, Poland, people keep telling me political campaigns are deductible. Yeah, those are donations. I don't know that you can deduct your own personal expenses. I hope it can, but I can't find it in the tax code. If you've got an answer or a reference, please let me know, because that would save me. I'd have a bigger return this year than I did last year, because I overpaid in taxes again, and I'm short a lot of money because I spent all that money on that. Apparently, Ramaphosa and Sennheiser had lunch. Okay, well, that's news to me. We're still waiting for what happened with their dinner situation. Political, what's this? Angie Motseka. What's going on with Angie? I've read many takes on the recent helicopter collision lately. I would like to hear what you have to say about it. Perhaps I missed what you said. You did miss what I said, Sue. So I've not looked at that situation in over 24 hours, but that evening I reported on immediately within the hour. I mean, I finished my radio program Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This mid-air collision occurred at about 8:48 in the evening. So right after I went off the air, I went and checked, and I saw already people posting that there had been an air crash in D.C. So I started looking into it. And within the hour, about 40 minutes, I did an initial report, mostly because there was a video from the Kennedy Center, and I could look at it and make some analysis, determination of what I saw. And people might go, well, who are you to just judge that video? You're just another guy. Well, I mean, I am an intelligence officer. I did deal with imagery, and that includes videos. And I also had to evaluate ongoing situations on the battlefield. So it's not exactly outside the realm of my experience to do quick analysis on video and things like that. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it right. It also doesn't mean I'm going to get it wrong. But the point is, my take on it was the following. They kept saying initially that it was a mid-air collision, that the American Airlines aircraft hit the helicopter. And I saw the video, and that didn't make any sense. I couldn't quite figure the angle out, but when I saw the map of where it happened at, on the flight path of helicopters along the Potomac, the eastern side of the Potomac, along Bolling Air Force Base, right along the channel there, I could see that once I knew that was a map, I saw that helicopter approach with its light flash, and I could see it was obvious that the smaller craft hit the larger craft and not the other way around. At least it appeared that way on the video. So my analysis has been the same. If you know D.C., if you've flown into Reagan National Airport, which I have done, both, I've been in a helicopter and I've been in commercial airliners. If you've flown in there, you know that it's a tight airspace with lots of restricted airspace over the nation's capital, including military installations. So you've got to be very careful when you're in there, and high volume of traffic. There were 88,000 helicopter flights over the Washington, D.C. air traffic control area of responsibility from 2019 to 2023 or 2024. That's a lot of helicopter flights, police, military mostly, and others. And so, but then people start criticizing, why are the military flying there? You really don't understand how the world works if you're questioning why the military has flights over our nation's capital. Honestly, you really don't know what's going on if you think that's unusual. In fact, we have far fewer military flights over our nation's capital than many other people do. Anyway, but yeah, so it's not unusual. This is also, they were on a pre-approved flight path. It's been there for ages, but both aircraft. The problem, most likely, my analysis, to answer your question directly, Sue, what I saw that evening and the next morning when I looked at this and looked it over and rationalized through what was going on, because there was talk about DEI, there was talk about night vision goggles, there's talk about this, talk about that, the altitude and everything. The bottom line from my perspective is I strongly believe that the helicopter pilots, whatever caused this, when they were asked instead of directed by the tower, when they're asked about whether they had visual on the flight approach, they probably saw the aircraft coming up on runway 01, which is a straight shot south to north. And so that would have brought that aircraft, and there was an aircraft coming that direction, over the western side of the Potomac. And then the aircraft that they collided with actually was on the eastern side of Potomac, and they may not have seen it just because of lights. Very possible that's the situation. So I don't know if we'll ever find out, but now we're hearing released that the American Airlines plane slightly pitched up the moment of impact or just before impact, which would indicate that probably somebody at the last moment realized that they were about to be struck and probably tried to pull on the throttle and lift that thing back up into the air. So I don't know what happened there, but it's a horrible tragedy that shouldn't have happened. And I was critical of the Trump administration, their officials, all of whom except for Pete Hegseth, including the president, came out and went on this rampage again about DEI. There's plenty of reasons to be upset with DEI, but that seemed like an inappropriate time to do it. We're now finding out why they did it. I've seen photographs of the military member whose identity they refused to release, claiming the family said they didn't want the name released. Well, it's not up to the family. That's just a matter of public information. I don't know why they hid it, but we're finding out why. And I'm not criticizing the pilot. We don't know that that pilot had anything to do with what happened. But what I do know is that this is a pilot who appears to be morbidly obese during training to become an officer at advanced camp. In the photograph I saw, people are claiming it's doctored. So if it's doctored, then shame on those who did it. But it's not doctored. The person is clearly obese and not fit to be in uniform, but got into the military and then never did a real job despite being an aviator, and worked at the White House as a lieutenant, and had only been in the military for about 5 years and had recently been promoted to captain. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there that's out of the norm. It's not normal for any service member to be serving at the White House doing social functions as a military member. That's highly unusual, particularly someone in a critically sensitive field that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars training them for to be a helicopter pilot. If anything, attorney general, not attorney general, but adjutant general officer would go there, something like that, someone who does admin. So there's all kinds of things going on here. In the end, I think what's going to happen is we're going to find out that overtaxed air traffic control tower. And by the way, they're grilling the Trump nominees like Kash Patel, who's absolutely brilliant, by the way. And they're grilling him about this, that, and the other. And the senators don't even know what they're talking about. And Patel comes back with the facts. It's just brilliant to watch that. But if you compare the confirmation hearings for Joe Biden's DEI hire to be the FAA, I remember that now. I saw someone showed the video about Ted Cruz grilling a guy. Are you a pilot? No. Do you have any flying experience? No. Were you ever an air traffic controller? No. Have you worked in the aviation industry? No. Have you ever built aircraft? No. Have you ever worked at an airport? No. And Cruz said, well, I'm woefully underqualified to be the FAA director, as are you. But the guy was hired. Yep. Remember that? So all of that plays a role. But that was the wrong time for the Trump administration to be doing that. Inappropriate, in my view. Should not have been doing that at the time. It was a little bit classless. Yep. Trudeau, go ahead and put your tariffs on us. We'll see how long that lasts. All right, Sue, there you go. Why not? The Taliban received a lot of equipment they weren't certified for either. Holden, I don't know what you're talking about. What was your previous comment there from Holden? Helicraft, few videos out on the topic. My understanding, the helicopter was focusing on the wrong. Well, that's Greg. That's what I just said. That was my analysis the night that it occurred, and I suspect we're going to find out that's the case. Well, yeah, that would be the co-pilot, the less experienced pilot. What I find fascinating is that initially the Department of Defense said that one of the pilots had 1,000 hours of flying hours, the other had 500. I find it implausible that the captain who had only been in the Army for 5 years and has spent 3 years in the White House as a social director had 500 hours of flying time. Maybe they're counting simulator time, but I find that very hard to believe. Yeah, Trump is keeping everyone very busy. Yep. And as am I, putting out the content. Yep. Trump should have steered clear of politics in that. Yeah, I agree, Garrett. That, if it's true, if DEI is a contributing factor, then that is something that will come out later on. There was no need for that right then. It appears the chopper was outside the flight path. No, Mark, that's not accurate. I saw the flight path based on the flight aware data, and it does look like there's a deviation just past the South Island below Fort McNair, but then the helicopter is back on the correct flight path before the strike, long before the strike. So I'm not really sure where that argument is coming from. They're trying to blame the military, and maybe the military is at fault here, but that statement doesn't jive with the facts. You see the data. We've got a pilot here, is Arctic here. You see the flight aware data. You can see where the helicopter is in its path. It does deviate and take a turn towards it going over the Potomac. I'm not sure what that was all about, but that was just for just a moment, and it banked right back in, and it was in the pre-approved corridor. The question comes down to altitude. The question is altitude of 200 or 300 feet. But folks, let me tell you something. If you've got an aircraft coming in at a couple hundred miles or 120 miles, 200 miles an hour, 150 miles an hour, descending down across that river, and you've got a helicopter, that plane is going to be at 0 altitude, AGL, in just a few moments, and it's descending. So the argument about the helicopter being at 300 feet, Vice being at 200 feet, to me, that's maybe a contributing factor, but it's a red herring because that shouldn't have been an issue. I mean, the bottom line is, even if the helicopter is at 200 feet, I seriously doubt that they could have escaped that collision. Or even if they'd escaped the collision, both the plane's flight paths would have been, or aircraft flight paths would have been disrupted. Certainly the helicopter. It might have been enough to actually throw the helicopter into a unplanned roll and throw them into the river. So there's all kinds of things in play here. But the bottom line is that it's a tragedy that should have been preventable. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate. All right. So where did the weekend go? Allison, well, it's been a busy weekend as always. Chopper was watching the wrong plane. Yes, Charles, that's what I've said from the beginning. Wrong place, wrong time. It's not something happening all the time. Thank God, Jacques Coetzee. Yeah. Steak says the markets will be down tomorrow. Nervy investors will sell. I will so much money. You will what? You will lose so much money. Is that what you're saying? Only if you sell. When people sell unnecessarily and they sell on emotion, what is that? It's a buying opportunity, folks. If you have the resource, you have the savings, it's time to reach in your pocket and get that stock you've been looking for all along but couldn't get to. Now, tomorrow will probably be a bad day if the market goes down for gold buyers or for Bitcoin investors, because both of those are likely to soar. Just saying. We'll see what happens. Markets do funny things. I'm making no predictions. Right. So thanks, folks. Appreciate you all being here. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. You know, it costs nothing but a moment of your time. Honestly, that's all it takes.
That was easy.
See? You push it. All right. We're over 1,200 views in the first half hour on that video. Cool beans. Cool beans. 153 people currently here. 92 likes. That's a good start. No super chats. No new members. Hey, that's fine. All right. Lynette says, sorry if a fair question. Since so many illegal immigrants have been deported, has crime... okay, Lynette. Okay. It's an interesting question, but it's an unfair or impossible question to answer. First off, I don't live in a crime-ridden area. I have I have told people in the past that I've, not now, but when I was still working at the work college, I come home so tired from work, busting my tail there, writing and teaching and researching and traveling. I'd come home from work so many times, I'd leave the key in the front door when I walk in because, especially in the wintertime, it's dark and I'd forget it. My hand's full of something in my bag and maybe pick up some groceries, something like that. And I left my key in the door all night long. And no one broke in. So I don't live in a crime-infested area. That said, there's always crime everywhere. But I mean, it's a safe area here. No murders around here. No carjackings around here. No home invasions around here. Thank goodness, But so, it's hard for me to give you an anecdotal response to that. But from a statistical standpoint, it's impossible. I mean, first off, almost no criminal alien invaders have been deported. The media is acting as if 30 million people have been deported. No, I think the total figure must be somewhere around 3,000, 3,500, maybe 5,000. I don't even think it's that many. That's nothing. In fact, the first 5 days of the Trump administration, the number of people arrested and deported under ICE was actually lower than the same number of days in the Biden administration. Go figure. Since then, they picked it up last weekend, and they were getting 1,200 one day, 900 the day before, so that was about 2,000 right there. So not a lot of people have been deported. Yes, these are violent criminals, but we won't know statistics till next year. The FBI compiles criminal statistics on a year-to-year basis. They do it quarterly, but we're not going to know the impact of that. And then I don't know that we're necessarily going to be able to attribute it to a reduction in criminal alien invaders. Now, let's be fair. The vast majority of people who are criminals by invading our country are not here committing subsequent crimes except for identity theft to get social security numbers and things like that. But most of these people aren't doing home invasions. They aren't carjacking. They aren't robbing. They aren't murdering. They aren't raping. But that doesn't mean they're not criminals. As you heard Carolyn Levitt saying, you've heard me say for years, they are a criminal by the mere fact that they violated our sovereignty and that made them a felon. So, which means they have no business being here. But most of them aren't committing crimes. So getting rid of them probably won't have much of an impact on criminal activity and statistics. But getting rid of these violent thousands of them. By the way, we have over 650,000 convicted criminal felons in this country who are illegal aliens. 660,000 illegal aliens who are convicted felons in this country. Getting rid of them will definitely have an impact on crime going down. Absolutely. But the rest of the people here illegally, I don't think it'll have much of an impact. Pat Bigham says, listening from South Africa and sharing with friends. Look forward to your interview with Gate and your interview with Rob. Oh, well, that's cool. So you're just finding me now too, Pat. I've been doing this for 5 years. Thank you. I'm glad you found me. Shalom Hottenbos says, what about the video that indicates it was a missile? Thought it might be a misleading report. From me? No. I didn't say it was a missile. I said it looked like a missile. Who said it was a missile? I didn't say it was a missile. There are a lot of people talking about the plane crash in Philadelphia saying, I said that looked like a Scud missile impacting. I'm not saying it was. I'm saying that's what it appeared. I mean, I've been on the battlefield and watched Scuds land around me. It's a pretty nerve-wracking experience, ladies and gentlemen. I was nearly killed by a Scud missile in January of 1991 when the Iraqis attacked Dahran Air Base and I was there. Frickin' Scud missile landed just a couple hundred feet from where I was at. And I was sleeping at the time. That woke me up as it was incoming. An explosion as a Patriot missile exploded near it. It never exploded, thank God. But yeah, no, that aircraft, that medevac flight in Philadelphia, resembled a missile, a Scud missile coming in for a landing. That's what it looked like. Who said it was a missile? And Shalom, in my video, I stand under correction, but in my video, I don't recall saying that. I did one video about that, and that was within the first 40 minutes. I said it looks odd. Yep. You're not going to inspect Christy Nome's farm. Why would Christy Nome's farm need to be inspected? You want to share that? All right. So Canada wants a trade war because Trudeau and Libs are so unpopular. Exactly. Exactly, King Gordon. You were spot on. You were spot on. You know, look, Trudeau is like, oh, we wanted to avoid this. We did what? You want it. Of course they want it because the Liberals are so unpopular. If a vote were held last week, the Liberals would be lucky to get 20% of the vote. I'm embellishing slightly, but they're getting trounced 60 to 40, probably worse than that. They would get wiped out of Parliament. They would be a thing of the past. They relish tariffs from Trump. So they can claim that, oh, we're just being besieged. We're just defending Canada. You are spot on, King Gordon. That's the first person other than myself I've heard say that. Why sanction Canada? Well, for a lot of reasons. The border is wide open. The Canadians have done nothing to fix it. Trump warned them in his first administration. They didn't take it seriously. Canada uses a number of unfair business practices. The list goes on and on and on and on. Canada has not exactly been behaving up to the spirit of the U.S.-Canada-Mexico agreement. Yeah, wake up. Your house will be stolen in South Africa. No, Chris, a natural principal student. Oh, yeah, I don't know who that is. Yeah. Same as Ngunyoma Trust. What's this? 45,000. What are you guys talking about, Robert Rankin? Those undocumented criminals won't be caught. Too clever for cop, and now the FBI is understaffed because of elections. Elon's Doge. Okay, first off, that's incorrect, Steak. No. How many FBI agents have been fired? Do you have a figure? Because there isn't one that exists. There are 20 top FBI officials are fired. These are people sitting in offices not doing agent work. So no. And the FBI is understaffed to get rid of 30 million people anyway. It would take the U.S. military and every law enforcement officer in this country from state, county, municipal, park police, customs, immigration, the Coast Guard to deport 30 million people. So I'm not really sure where you're going with that. Undocumented criminals won't be caught. Sure, they'll be caught. It just takes a matter of time. And if we had people not actively undermining the federal government, putting the public at risk by tipping off criminals, then we go a lot smoother. Lynette appreciates my response. You're very welcome, Lynette. What else? The video for Reagan, something reported was a mistake. Yeah, no, that sounds to me like nonsense. I don't recall saying that. Yeah, I don't know many missiles that fly at about 120 miles an hour on a level flying path, straight, from left to right. Cruise missiles do that, but they don't fly at 120 miles an hour. They fly a lot faster than that, and they don't come with traffic navigation lights. That helicopter light was flashing as it approached. Yeah, so anyway. Holden's making a point that mainstream media didn't spend a whole week on the Kobe helicopter crash like they're doing with this one. Well, Kobe Bryant was a person who was a celebrity, and this are 67 bodies lost in the nation's capital. I think it's a bigger story, so I understand why. Everyone over the practice run for the year, May, February, because January's practice run, Debbie. We don't sleep with our doors unlocked. We sleep with them open. All right, well, good to you, Derek. I'm not doing that. Philadelphia air disaster was ambulance and had oxygen on board. Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that, Erica. Thank you. Brett Sessom said $10 super chat. Said found out about violence in the Costa Kingdoms amongst themselves and those two chiefs fighting over the throne. That's true. Yep, there's a lot written on that, but most people ignore it. Thank you for the $10 super chat there, Brett. Appreciate that. Very kind of you. Trudeau will be reelected as a trade wartime president. Don't hold your breath on that. Illegal immigrants is more than crime. It's about votes for Democrats. Well, only illegal votes, King Gordon, because illegal immigrants can't vote. They're not citizens. That doesn't mean we don't have illegal aliens voting, but the numbers are quite small. And they can't become a citizen through the legal process when they've come to the country illegally. So unless the Democrats regain control and they give them amnesty, which is what they wanted to do. And that's been thwarted by Donald Trump coming back into office. The FBI and ICE are going through sanctuary cities for illegals. Correct. Sanctuary cities are illegal and they're a federal violation of law. Are you saying that the picture does not meet the reality of the Trump administration? In what respect, Mark? In what respect? The 4 trekkers didn't steal land. Okay. Erica just gave 5 memberships. And William Peters, Whirlwind, Mandy Wallace, John Blankenberg, Achtung bitte. I like that. All right, cool beans. All right. And for some, they're not coming up. I've got the alert box turned off. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's because it was just, we had interview and it was just causing too much confusion in the background. So that won't be there. Sorry. So here's one salute for all 5 of you. I normally render a hand salute to people for becoming members, even if someone else did on their behalf. But not all 5 of those didn't come up, Erica. Sorry about that. Had it turned off. But there's our salute. Thank you to Erica for getting those people their memberships. All right, cool beans. All right. As we get more and more members, if we get to the threshold, we're over 300 or 500 members, then I will start doing exclusive content just for members. So hopefully we can get there. It's not been a goal of mine, but it's something I'm thinking about. Right now, it's not, membership doesn't generate much in the way of energy, and we're trying to get traction here with the channel. So let me take a look and see how that video is doing. It was 1,200 last time I looked. So it's been a few minutes since then, and we are up to 2,000 now. 2,000, and it's climbing very rapidly. Not even an hour old, we've had 2,000 views on it, the Trump one, and I've got all likes so far, 268. The hates will be coming soon enough. Stop non-citizens sending money they earn out of the USA. That's a good way to do it, Jan Fiona, but you know how we need to stop? Do you know how we stop that? By cracking down on Bentonville, Arkansas. Walmart is the major source of that money leaving this country, going to Mexico in particular, but elsewhere, and to Africa. It's going through Walmart, because you can go to Walmart and they have 2 services, Walmart to World, which will let you use Western Union MoneyGram to send money to people. Yep. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Whirlwind says, thanks for membership. Well, that's pretty cool, Whirlwind. So you've got your RDP house. Yeah, that's your Reconstruction Development Program house. One problem with your house, if you're a new member, we offer no water for your fire pool, and there are no hookups for the mains for electricity. You have to provide that on your own. It is, after all, an ANC product, your RDP house. But you only get it for 30 days, so you move up to a higher level after that, so don't sweat it. If you renew the membership that you've been gifted, then you'll get another avatar and access to special emojis. All right, so here in the USA, things are taking what Hitler did to the Jews against immigrants. Everybody, what is this? Kind of what Hitler did to the Jews against immigrants. Everybody that is undocumented is afraid to leave their houses. What does that have to do with the Jews? The Jews weren't undocumented. They were German citizens. And is your point that illegal aliens are afraid to leave their homes? And that's akin to Jews afraid to leave their homes? I don't think so. I haven't seen any government-sponsored attacks and raids on illegal immigrants' shops like we've seen in spazas and tuck shops in South Africa. We have seen that. Government politically sponsored attacks and assaults on foreign nationals. We've seen that in spades in South Africa. Haven't seen that here in the U.S. Arc Precision. So what exactly are you talking about? I'm not following your logic there. Oh, read above that. Sorry. Okay, I'm out of sync. I know, but I got this from USA Friend. Oh, okay. Okay, someone's telling you that. Well, that friend is not very well informed. All right. Not very well informed. There is no correlation there. We got lots of people trying to equate Donald Trump with Nazis, but here's the thing. Okay, so you ready for this? All right, so Kash Patel, first Indian son of immigrants to be the director of the FBI. Tulsi Gabbard, the first Samoan and only second woman to be the director of national intelligence. Marco Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, the first Latino to be Secretary of State. Shall I go on? Bessem, the first openly gay Treasury Secretary. Wow, this Donald Trump, man. Oh, he's a bigot and a racist and a homophobe. Well, damn. If he's a bigot, a homophobe, a racist, why does he keep putting all these people who are gay, brown, female in positions of incredible authority to lead this country? It just doesn't match. It doesn't match. Archie Murray, thank you for your subscription. It just doesn't match the reality. It's just nonsense. And people fall for it. They're stupid. They're stupid. They really are stupid. It's like the same thing in the video I just made about the ANC in South Africa. And I said, I was going to put dear South Africa, dear SA, but I didn't want to, I don't want to throw shade on that. So I said, dear ANC, because that's really who the letter's written to. You need AGOA. We don't need your AGOA. Well, fine. Piss it down the drain. We don't need AGOA. I derive zero benefit from AGOA. Do I get free lodging in South Africa? No. Do I get discounted goods? No. The only thing I can get as a consumer is that your goods can come here and they cost slightly less. Thank you, Spiker's boss. But I don't buy BMW parts from South Africa. I rarely buy South African wine, and I'll pay the 2% duty that's added on if I have to. It's not a problem. So there's no benefit. And Wade McDonald, what's going on now? Suddenly people are just subscribing like left and right here. Yeah. Yes, I do suggest people go read AGORA. I've done it endlessly because I'm familiar with AGORA and I was around when it was crafted and put together. So, and in the military and on the receiving end of how it affected our trade in Africa. Bernard Z says, I need to call you. Well, Bernard, lots of people need to call me. What do you need to call me about? If you're not able to disclose it, then what I suggest you do is get on one of the groups, the WhatsApp group or the Telegram group, which hopefully Hendo, one of the mods, can put those up. Get in there. If you want to keep your phone number hidden, then you need to send me your message on Telegram, because Telegram can hide your phone number and just use a username. But if you don't mind that, you can put it on WhatsApp and then send me a message and we can communicate that way. All right? Bernard, okay, thank you. The email, I'm not good at checking them. You're there. Copy. Okay, Bernard, got it. Cool beans, Bernard. Thanks. Okay, so I'm catching up here. Read the book, The Covenant. People arrive in South Africa and Central Africa. Who are the invaders? Okay. I don't think Tulsi's going to be making. No, I don't think she's going to make it either. And I predicted she would be the one that wouldn't make it. Rita Alameda, thank you for joining us and subscribing. Yeah, I did say that Tulsi Gabbard is likely to be the one person that will not make it. Friends in the U.S. who own businesses and they find it hard to get workers. Well, Patrick, it is hard to get workers. Do you know why it's hard to get workers? Because of 3 decades of dumbing down the American workforce and then instilling laziness in Americans. This is a country built on thrift, hard work, and effort. And that has been undermined by the nanny state for 50 years, and the impact has been most pronounced in the last 25 years. So we have lockdown, so we give people money, okay? Extend unemployment benefits for out to 6 years. You collect unemployment for 6 years, there's no incentive to go back to work when you're getting 60, 70% of your income by doing nothing, sitting at home, eating Cheetos. Thank you, Predator Vision, Paul. Wow, suddenly a lot of people are subscribing. Look, there is no incentive. And there are plenty of qualified workers do things. I know I'm responsible for Veterans Organization, and we find it almost impossible to hire people to be. Boy, this is just like during the Senate call, folks. If that's getting annoying, let me know and I'll turn that off. But it's kind of cool to see all of these subscriptions coming in right now. It's like when I did the Senate call video. Remember that? The live stream in Senate call back in 2020. And we had 2,500 subscribers on one live stream. It was awesome. Anyway, it is hard to find workers because Americans have become lazy. But that doesn't mean it justifies letting people come to the country. Europeans are lazy too. I mean, the Greeks want to work 34 hours a week, and if they don't get to work 34 hours a week, they're pissed off. The French don't want to work any more than 34 hours a week. This is insanity. The world doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And Patrick just gifted membership there. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So you're right, Patrick. They do have a hard time finding workers. But then they're not trying very hard. I'll give you a good example. Greg, there you go. Thank you, Greg. So a nearby university, an Ivy League sort of school, has a vacancy for political science professor. Okay. Thank you, Derek. Has a vacancy for a political science professor. I'm a qualified political science professor with the requisite skills and way overqualified for what they're looking for to teach entry-level courses. I applied. Thank you, Tyrone. That opening was supposed to close, January 1st. It's still open. And they've not hired any for that position, and they've had my CV since then. They haven't bothered to even tell me that they haven't even turned it down. They haven't said no. The academic term started, so we're into the term when they needed someone to teach that. Good Lord, JJ. They're into the term when someone needs to teach, and they didn't hire anyone. They needed 2 political science professors. They hired 0. The post is still open, and they haven't rejected me. So my point here is we've got lazy people doing job announcements for an open position for a qualified candidate, and they're too stupid and lazy to even contact someone. Rhinus Nordkia, welcome to you. So, I mean, look, there's all kinds of problems in the job labor market, but that's not an excuse to bring illegal aliens in here. Very little duty-free items in what? In AGOA? No. 5,600 goods and services are exempted under AGOA. You are mistaken. You're mistaken. No. Lots of duty-free goods under AGOA. And if there are very few duty-free goods, how do you explain $2.3 billion in South African exports to the U.S. that are duty-free under AGOA? How do you explain that? So you're mistaken. 906H2. I don't know what that means. +1 just subscribe. Thank you for that. So, okay. So committee members gave her hell. They attacked her on a stance that Edward Snowden, making her sound like a traitor. Yeah, look, she's not qualified to be the director of national intelligence. It was a wrong nomination. They should have put her in something else. So I don't think that was wise. The Democrats don't like Tulsi Gabbard because they're misogynist, racist, bigots, and they hate people who are minorities and women with that kind of genitalia who betray the Democratic Party. That's why they're going after her. They hate Robert Kennedy because he's a scion of a Democratic, royalty. And so the fact that he's betrayed the Democratic Party, which is not the case in the case of Tulsi Gabbard and the case of Robert Kennedy, both those parties betrayed those people. So they left the party, understandably so. But the Democrats are mean-spirited, evil, misogynistic, racist, bigots, and homophobes who claim Republicans are that when they're the ones that actually are that. It's pretty funny to see. It's sad, actually. Stolen land you keep referring to is not owned by anyone. I'm not talking about stolen land. Oh, that's for Brett. I didn't like working 37 hours a week unless I got paid time and a half. It says Flesh. Okay. Good evening, Joe. And then who else we got here? We got Mary Sinclair. I'm so pissed at the way South Africa's going. Vengeance for what? Bella, EWC. Yeah, now, nowhere funds for NH is coming from. The hospitals are at risk. Oh, yeah. No, it's just a complete disaster. And if Trump actually turns off assistance to South Africa, which he could in the coming year, this year, the money for PEPFAR is going to come. But if it gets suspended, it'll get turned off immediately. And if they don't renew PEPFAR, then it's gone too. So yeah, that could all happen. It could be disastrous. You take $500 million away from South Africa's healthcare sector. That's going to have devastating consequences because the people who are benefiting from that are the people who have no money. The people have no money. Brett Sessoms, another $5 says King Dingani was wrong to do what he did to Pete Retief. And yep, he killed Shaka as well. Yep, you're right about that. Thanks for the $5 super chat there, Brett. Yeah, no, it's just stupid. I mean, South Africa, that $500 million doesn't go to Rob Hersov. It doesn't go to Johan Rupert. It doesn't go to Tokyo Sexual. It doesn't go to Cyril Ramaphosa. It goes to Petrus van Heerden in the Northern Cape. It goes to Sile Ngema in KwaZulu-Natal. That's who it goes to. Poor South Africans. Greetings, my big brother, says Rock and Horror Popcast Show. Another interesting username. Welcome to you. All right, we haven't even gotten to the mail yet, or the news yet. Let's do it. But it is Sunday, so we are taking our time and pace here. And Brett's single-handedly trying to keep us in the green there. Thank you, Brett. We appreciate all those super chats. And for those able to do it, we need some billionaires to watch this program. Make some super chats. Okay, we have not reached 1 hour. We're short of an hour, and that video is at 3,000 on the Trump. All right, keep going, folks. The one I just did. And I did that as a consequence of comments. People putting comments out there, and it's just like, I don't mind your comments, but, at least back your comments up with facts, man. Screw the news, says Alan. Yeah, Alan, the problem with that is I do a lot of research. It takes a lot of time and effort. The Vina Massacre. Okay, it sucks that Trump will pass laws because ANC, they don't speak for us. Yeah, well, Trump wouldn't be passing a law. Suspending access to AGOA is the president's legal prerogative to do that. That doesn't require a law. That's in the law already. And ending PEPFAR is not necessarily the problem. It depends on how it goes. PEPFAR is a piece of legislation. It's for 5 years. It must be renewed or reintroduced every 5 years. And Congress can simply ignore it, which is possible. Konrad van Beek, thank you for subscribing. It can simply be not renewed for 5 years, or it can be reduced, so there's all kinds of things going on there. Mark Myberg says, Rob Hersov. And do know that what everything on the AGOA is MFN, most favored nation tariff. Everything not listed apart from AGOA free of. Okay, I'm not sure where you're going with that. Republican Party with a landslide victory. So how come they need Democrats to have a vote on nominees? Okay, so Sue, first off, Republicans didn't win with a landslide. Trump won convincingly, but it wasn't a landslide. The Republicans have 53 senators, not 60, so that's not a landslide. 60 would be a landslide, 60 to 40, but anything short of that's not a landslide. In the House of Representatives, Republicans barely held on. And right now they have just one extra vote until those congressmen and women who were nominated for positions Trump administration are replaced by their states. So for the meantime, Republicans have a very narrow margin in the House. So it's not a landslide. That's the first thing. It was a great victory. It was a tremendous victory. It was the first popular vote victory by a Republican since 2004. So yes, it's all true, but let's not use the imprecise language. Why do they need a vote from Democrats? Well, they don't. The way this works is that the Senate has confirmation authority. So this is part of our unique system of checks and balances. So under our Constitution, the legislative, the executive, and judicial branch are co-equal branches of government. Kevin Bruton, thank you for subscribing. They're co-equal branches of government. So in theory, they have checks and balances. So the president, for instance, when Barack Obama signed us up for the Paris Climate Accord, he can do that, but it doesn't apply, if it makes sense. So Barack Obama can go to Paris. He can sign the Paris Climate Accord, commit the United States to, suicide, but it has no legal status. Why? Because treaties must be ratified by the Senate. That is the advice and consent of the Senate, the senior body of the legislature. There's the House, the lower body, and then the Senate, the senior body. The House, the lower body, is the people's body because it represents the people directly. The 435 members of the House of Representatives, Jody von Holstein, thank you for subscribing. That body is comprised of people based on apportionment of districts based on population. Roughly, it's about 685,000, 700,000 people per district around the country. And that's where you get the 435 members of the House of Representatives. So they don't have advice and consent when it comes to treaties. That's the Senate, which represents the states. That's why we have 100 senators, 2 senators for every state. Every state is co-equal. So Wyoming, with 550,000 population, has the same strength in the Senate, 2 senators, as California with 39 million people. Go figure. But that's because it's a federal system. So when Barack Obama signed the Paris Climate Accord, when he signed the Paris Climate Accord, what happened was that the Senate had to ratify it. Well, a Democratic-led Senate under Obama refused to ratify it because it was disastrous for America. Then a Republican Senate under Trump refused to ratify it. Then a Democratic Senate under Biden refused to ratify it. And it's not going to get ratified. So it never had any weight. So when you see pundits talk about the Americans are pulling out of Paris Climate Accord, we were never in it. Now, illegally, the Biden administration tried to apply the standards of the Paris Climate Accord to America with executive orders and trying to pass legislation to not let us have gas stoves and this, that, and the other, and mandate EVs and all this stuff. That's all an effort to get us to comply with it, but we are not part of it. So they were illegally trying to get around the fact that the treaty was never authorized. So, back to your point. So why is there a vote on these people? Okay, well, here's the deal. So in order to get a nominee approved for certain positions, not all positions, the Senate has to vote. So these are officers of the United States. So officers include cabinet members, they include certain agency heads, and they include all military commissioned officers in the United States. So every time that I was promoted above the rank of lieutenant to captain, major, lieutenant colonel to colonel in the United States Army, my promotion had to go on a list recommended by the Secretary of the Army to the President. The President would have to get that list, sign it, send it back to the Senate, and the Senate would confirm or deny. Now, it's just a fait accompli, it's just a pro forma. Priya LaRue, welcome. It's a pro forma as if they just go ahead and approve it. So normally there are exceptions for general officers, appointments to be commanders of certain commands, and promotion in general. Sometimes those fall by the wayside. Mostly it's just done. However, for cabinet members, they like to stick their nose in. There is no requirement in the Constitution for hearings in the Senate to interview candidates for any political office. That has to be confirmed by the Senate. They can simply have a vote on it. But for Kabuki Theater, for years now, they've had this little nomination process, and the parties use it to their political advantage, as we're seeing right now by Democrats. So that committee, let's say Tulsi Gabbard gets 5 votes for and 11 against. Her nomination still goes to the floor of the Senate, and she can still get nominated, but she has to have 50 plus 1. So if it's if 3 Republicans betray the Republican Party, like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell did in the vote to nominate Pete Hegseth, then the Vice President of the United States, who is the President of the Senate, has the 51st vote. All right, so there you go. I hope that explains it. Sue, what's your view on the likelihood of Donald Trump intervening in this total onslaught? I don't think that Donald Trump will intervene for minorities. I think that Donald Trump will, by default, intervene in South Africa because BRICS is going to have to make a commitment to abandon its de-dollarization of international trade, or Trump is going to impose tariffs on BRICS countries. South Africa is a BRICS country. So, how do I get FaceTime, Chris? I don't do FaceTime. I'm not an Apple user. So, Bernard, I don't know who you are. So, I'm not sure what you're asking for. You've just taken the bait. Go home. What's this? I'm not sure where we're going with this. Anyway, I think Bernard wants to reach out to me, but Bernard, not going to get that right in the middle of a broadcast. Oh, it's not that complicated, Sue. It's not. I learned this as a teenager. I learned all this as a teenager in civics in junior high school before I even went to high school. I learned all this, and I've known it ever since the 1970s when I was a kid. So it's not hard. It's just that most Americans are ignorant of their system, and people around the world don't understand the system. And that's fair. It's not your system. It's not yours to understand. But the problem is that the media say things and people just go for it. So again, the Senate has no obligation to hold these hearings, but they do that. It's kabuki theater. I don't think it's particularly productive, and it's become more and more of a partisan political bunch of nonsense. The treatment of Kash Patel was vile, repulsive, and horrible. The same with Pete Hegseth. And the very people up there acting so pompous, like Cory Booker and all these other jackasses, if we open the closet and see the skeletons in their closet, they would run and hide. So, yep. Bernard, I told you how. I told you. Did you not get the links to the WhatsApp? You said Roger. The USA's had this since 1880. 1880? No, we haven't. All right. Okay. Did I just have did I experience deja vu? Was I not 15, 20 minutes ago explaining exactly how to contact me through a WhatsApp or preferably through Telegram? Did I not do that? And also said a fallback is the email, which has been posted in the group. So I'm not trying to be combative, but I don't understand what's so complicated about that. Are people behind? Because it happens. People tune in the broadcast late, or there's a delay and they wind up behind. But I mean, I've explained all this. I explained all this very much in depth and very politely. So I can't focus on that. So, all right. One of my mods, please talk to the gentleman so we can get somewhere. Okay. That video from Trump now is about Trump is 1 hour and it's got 3,800 views. That's pretty good for 1 hour starting off on a Sunday when people are experiencing load shedding, nonetheless. Load shedding. I'm not laughing at your fate. That just sucks. All right. Okay. Let me get to some of the news here, folks. As a late tuner, I am a victim of watching your Trump video before you explained everything. Rogan, that's fine. Welcome to the program and thank you for becoming a subscriber. Yes, and I'm waiting. Okay. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so look, I don't do call-ins anymore. We did that and it worked in 2020 for a little bit, but people aren't that interested. There are exceptions for people whom I know, but I don't just take call-ins anymore out of the blue. That's a recipe for disaster. I mean, does everybody remember the live stream we had in 2020 when I had like 9 people in the stream and it was pretty cool? And then some troll hijacked my Zoom session before Zoom put some control measures in to protect your broadcast. I think it was somebody at Zoom that did it, to be honest. And they started running Nazi images and Klan images up there and using profanity, and I couldn't get control. Couldn't control the damn Zoom. I had to crash the stream. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. Anyway, let's get to some of the news here, folks. First off, Tembe Similani, the musical chairs minister. Today she's minister of this, tomorrow she's minister of that, the next day she's minister of something else. Tembe Similani, who has been exposed for purported corruption when she was the mayor of Polokwane, Petersburg, in Limpopo province in the northern part of South Africa, is upset that the journalist Paulie van Wyk, who's just resigned, by the way, from the Daily Maverick. Ooh, there's some news. Paulie van Wyk has just resigned from the Daily Maverick. And is it Luke Cowan, or Cowan is his name anyway, over at News 24 did a joint investigative effort into Tembe Similani's alleged corruption, purported corruption. And they exposed many things about her. Well, she's angry, and she says they violated her privacy. Well, I don't think that's really true, but we'll see. What the heck was that? Man, that's in the wrong place again. Sorry about that, folks. That just kind of throws everybody off. My software jumped from place to place. Thank you, Benjamin Butta, for your subscription. So, Tembe Similani threatens journalists with litigation, legal costs for reporting on her spending. Really? Former Justice Minister Tembe Similani has threatened to seek personal cost orders for alleged defamation and violation of her privacy against investigative journalists who reported on her finances and spending on luxury goods that outstripped her salary as a mayor. But I'm sorry, if they stated facts, how is it defamation? Did they call you crooked or corrupt without any basis in fact? There's, in fact, prima facie evidence that the woman is, in fact, guilty of the things that she's accused of. So her lashing out at journalists prompted me to make a video last night, which took a lot of time and effort to put into, and hasn't got many views. Bummer. Meanwhile, Penguinomics. This is a good news story in News 24. We often get accused of not doing the good news. Here's some good news, folks. Here's good news. Penguins contributing to South Africa's economy. Unfortunately, South Africa has done virtually nothing to protect these penguins, allowing illegal fishing to steal all of their meals off the shore, not protecting the shoreline from pollution, and breeding pairs have declined precipitously for the jackass penguins. Yes, I know, they're called African penguins now. I don't play the woke game. Homie, don't play woke. They're jackass penguins. Why are they called jackass penguins? No, because they don't make bird sounds. They make donkey sounds. They sound like jackasses. They are called jackass penguins. You can call them African penguins all you want, but they are not African penguins. Guess how much African penguins contribute to South Africa's GDP? That would be jackass penguins. Nope, it's much, much more. It is quite a bit, according to this claim. South Africa's penguins generate between 613 million rand and 2.7 billion rand per year as their total economic contribution. Now, I don't know the true figure, but we know from the colony at Boulders Beach, 95 million in entrance fees alone in 2023. By the way, I was at that beach in 2023, and I paid that excessively high fee to get in there. Actually, it's not that bad. But yeah, so I've been to Boulders, and I've paid that fee to get in there. Let me see if I can find my video on that real quick. We'll just do a little quick segue into that. So, thought about doing a video on it, but nobody tunes in for good news stories. There we go, Boulders Beach Penguin. Here's one. Here's one. So I did this. Hang on a second. Is it going to give me an ad? Yeah, it's going to give me an advert, so let's get rid of the ad. Boulders Penguin Sanctuary, Simonstown. So when did I do this? It was 2023, wasn't it? Yeah, 1 year ago. Well, this was 2024, but it was over a year ago. So, all right, here we go. Come on, I can't get through my own ads. There's a site where you can come down and see the penguins. Of course, these penguins, once known as the jackass penguins for their loud, annoying braying sound, now been renamed African penguins. Kind of handy. I suppose that's a much better selling point, African penguins, than jackass penguins. But when you hear them bray, if they make a little noise behind me, you'll pick up on that. Of course, many people have now become very well familiar with this colony of penguins that are here in Simonstown, home of the South African Naval Base, as a consequence of the Netflix special, which is a pretty good special, actually, for Netflix. But this colony has been here for a very long time, and people began protecting it about a century ago. But the population of these penguins is greatly reduced from 1.5 million a little over 100 years ago. Well, there you go. You can hear the braying in the background right now. To a colony today that's about 2,200. But that is a colony that was on the brink of extinction just a few years ago and has made a pretty significant recovery here in the Simontowns area. Of course, these penguins are nesting at this time of year, and so they're pretty quiet, and they're putting on a good show for the tourists here and those coming down to take a look at them, waddling around, showing themselves off, and sunning on the beach. Anyway, folks, reporting from Simonstown, this is Chris in South Africa. There you go, folks. So that was the video I did last year covering the penguins in Boulders, who apparently kick in a lot of money. That's pretty good. In 2023, when I visited, they made 95 million rand. Wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like the new beard, Chris, better now that I see the previous look. That's not the previous look. The previous look was to my navel. That was already trimmed up on my trips back to South Africa. Yes, those penguins are nasty, smelly, disgusting. I've also been to the penguin colonies further along the Western Cape coastline there. Linsam12, thank you for subscribing. And he likes the beard much better. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the death toll, sadly, in the Democratic Republic of Congo for the South African National Defense Force, thank you, Gustav Kuiper, has risen to 14. Another soldier has passed away, unfortunately, from this debacle of the ANC. There's the leader of the Alliance Fleuve Congo, Cornel Nangaya. 14 South African soldiers have been confirmed dead following the intense combat. According to the South African Defense Force, they showed extraordinary courage in halting the advance despite logistical support challenges. Well, if the videos that I saw coming from Goma were any indication of the heroic courage of the soldiers, I would say that that's a bit overstated. But then I wasn't there, so all I have to go on is the video footage. Dozens have been killed as opposition forces from the RSF attacked an open market in Sudan. Crazy stuff. Fighters with opposition rapid support forces have attacked an open market in the Sudanese city of Omdurman, killing 54 people. That's sad, folks. Truly, truly sad. Arab nations have rejected Donald Trump's proposal that they take Palestinians from Gaza. And people are making all kinds of nonsense about Gaza. Well, it's expulsion, it's genocide. I don't know. Have you noticed Gaza? It's rubble. And it's really unsafe for anybody to be in Gaza until it's cleaned up. So, short of living in refugee tents in the Sinai, kind of like the Sawahiri living in Algerian tents for 60 years, I mean, really, what's the answer here? Well, the Arab countries want nothing to do with the Palestinians. That comes as no shock to me. Arab nations reject Trump's suggestion to relocate Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt and Jordan. Powerful Arab nations rejected President Trump's suggestion to relocate Palestinians from Gaza to neighboring Egypt and Jordan. Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, and Palestinian Authority, and the Arab League released a joint statement rejecting any plans to move Palestinians out of their territories in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. First off, the West Bank is not occupied. It's not the West Bank of the Jordan River. It is Judea. So let's get that straight. That's the first thing. Second thing we need to get straight is Gaza is not their territory. It's Egypt. If Egypt wants to relinquish control of it and say it's not ours, it's Palestinians, then that's their prerogative. But it's not Palestinian, it's Egyptian. And the reason it is Gaza is because Egypt invaded Israel. Israel spanked their ass and sent them back. And it's been under the control of the Israelis up until about the year 2006 when they turned it over to the Palestinian Authority. So there you go. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is, in fact, headed to the United States to discuss the victory over Hamas. I think that's a bit premature, Bibi. There is no victory over Hamas until they're all gone. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today he will discuss victory over Hamas, countering Iran, and expanding diplomatic relations with Arab countries in his meeting with President Trump. Tuesday's meeting at the White House will be Trump's first with a foreign leader since returning to office. It comes as U.S. and Arab mediators begin the daunting work of brokering the next phase of the agreement to wind down the war in the Gaza Strip. Lovely beachfront property. Well, you're going to have to clear a lot of rubble away. Justin Trudeau is detailing Canada's retaliatory tariffs on Americans. Even as Canada's Prime Minister announced more than $100 billion in retaliatory tariffs, he made clear that he was imposing them reluctantly. BS. He's happy to impose them because he gets no blame. No, it's not incorrect. It's Judea. We don't want to be here, Mr. Trudeau said in a somber televised address from Ottawa that evoked the deep bonds between the two neighbors and close trading partners. We didn't ask for this. In fact, you did ask for it. Canada spends 1.2% of its GDP on national defense. Canada made a promise over a decade ago to increase that to 2%, and for 10 years has failed to do it. Canada is a freeloader when it comes to mutual defense. Canada does not pay its share for NORAD, the North American Air Defense System. Canada does not pay its share for NATO. Canada does not patrol its waters adequately, and Canada does not patrol its land border with the United States, thereby increasing the risk to our citizens and our sovereignty. Canada is a freeloader, not Canadians, but Canada's government in Ottawa is a freeloader. It's as simple as that. And so until Canada steps up and pays its share, until Canada Canada begins actually protecting its border and ensuring safety of Canadians and Americans, these sanctions are there. These tariffs are there. That's just a reality. Trump has announced, as he said on February 1st, he wasn't joking, significant new tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, sparking retaliatory actions by these actors. President Trump announced extraordinary new tariffs from Mexico, Canada, and China, signing the long-promised economic policy at his Mar-a-Lago club yesterday. Trump administration said tariffs are aimed at curbing the flow of drugs and undocumented immigrants into the U.S., but they potentially risk substantial price increases. Well, look, the Trump administration is saying that they're because of fentanyl and illegal immigration, and that's true. But frankly, the other part of this too, and Trump has let the cat out of the bag, is that from Trump's perspective, Canada and Mexico are taking advantage of America. Now, he negotiated the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement, free trade agreement, which replaced NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was a disaster because there were no protections for copyright, intellectual property, and software, and so on. And so he negotiated a new treaty. It took effect in July of 2020 before he left office. And that has been stunted in some respects because of the COVID scam that took place and the economic downturn as a result. But that agreement's in place, and it's made for a much more level playing field for American businesses and American workers. But Trump is still upset with Canada and Mexico taking advantage of the U.S. We can argue whether that's true or not, but I will tell you that that is a motivation for these tariffs. It's not simply fentanyl and illegal aliens. That's just nonsense. And anyone who believes that isn't paying attention. Well, here's Donald Trump's fact sheet from the White House about this tariffs imports. He said the extraordinary threat posed by illegal aliens and drugs, including deadly fentanyl, constitutes a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Until the crisis is alleviated, President Trump implementing a 25% additional tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico and a 10% on imports from China. Energy resource from Canada will be lower at 10% rate. And he goes on and on. Talks about Mexican drug trafficking, leveraging for America's interest in stopping the flood of aliens and drugs into the country. So there you go. That's the actual press release. So Canada and Mexico want Americans to feel the pain. Well, bring it on. We already feel the pain of your open borders and the drugs and your economic sabotage of America. Both countries are planning precision strikes against U.S. exports in response to Trump's unilateral tariffs. Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll see who blinks first. Canada and Mexico will suffer severe economic blows from the tariffs Trump has announced. Their strategy is to make sure Americans feel the pain too. Shooting yourself in the foot, said Mexico's economy minister Marcelo Ebrard, on Twitter. Yeah, well, you're the one shooting yourself in the foot by taking us for suckers and chumps for the past 40 years. Shipping all your citizens from your failed cities and towns up here to America to strip our economic wealth and send it back in the form of remittances while lowering wages of American workers here. That's the bottom line. And lowering the safety standards for home building, such as electricians, masons, carpenters, plumbers. Yeah, you've really put us in a bind here, and it's about damn time that someone stood up to this nonsense. I'm not for tariffs. I'm a free trader. But when your partner doesn't apply free trade principles, you're just a fool if you continue to free trade with them. China has formal and informal barriers that prevent our products and our services, our automobiles, from entering the Chinese marketplace, from our computers making the Chinese marketplace, from all of our stuff making the Chinese marketplace. They do it to us. They do it to South Africa. They do it to the entire world to protect their domestic market while shipping their goods overseas, becoming the little workshop of the world. Well, that ain't going to fly anymore. Homie, don't play that. Get over yourselves. That is not the norm going forward. So, yeah, are we going to have a trade war here? Well, only if these people keep acting like fools. Only if they keep acting like fools. And I don't like trade wars, and I think free trade is the right way to go. But it's not free trade when people cheat. China cheats. Europe cheats. Canada cheats. Mexico cheats. And frankly, America cheats in some ways. Let's be honest. We have subsidies for maize. We have subsidies for sugar. We shouldn't be growing sugar in this country. We should just import it all because we can't produce it efficiently like Brazil can. Of course, they destroy the Amazon to do it, but that's a whole other story. Michael Holmes says, I think this trade war could backfire. I agree with you, Michael. I think Canada and Mexico's approach is very self-defeating. You notice China's not talking about a trade war. Well, tariffs are here. Price hikes may be coming for you. Look at that. Canadian producers of cherry tomatoes. Why is Canada growing? It's like the Great White North. Hey, come on, you hoser. You're nothing but snow and ice. You're growing tomatoes? Well, yeah, they grow them in greenhouse across the border. Tonka trucks. I don't need a Tonka truck. Tonka sold America down the river. Every one of Tonka trucks, what little kids grow up with, are made in China. Why? 50 years ago when I was a little kid, they were made in America. Yep. So Chinese goods, the 10% tariff, the retail price of a Tonka truck is $30. Who the hell pays $30 for a Tonka truck? They just cost $1.69. And now it's going to raise it between $35 and $39. So what? Don't buy Tonka trucks. Maple syrup. U.S. and Canada are the only two countries that produce this on a commercial scale. Well, we do produce it on a commercial scale. So you know what? Instead of maple syrup from Canada, let's use American-grown honey on our pancakes and waffles. There you go. And what else we got here? So sledgehammers. There's already a big tariff on Chinese sledgehammers because they've flooded the market with below cost. Smartphones. Well, I bought my laptop before the tariffs went in. So anyway, the passenger jet that collided with the Black Hawk, whoever is responsible really isn't the issue here, apparently pitched upwards just before the collision. Transportation safety investigators are seeking to determine if the pilot's American Airlines plane detected danger just before midair crash with a helicopter. And Gil has just become a member, not Jill. Gil, thank you, Gil. Appreciate your membership. So, investigators of the National Transportation Safety Board appeared unsure what it means. They said that as the helicopter was coming in the last moment, it turned upward. Well, that would indicate to me most likely that there's either a problem on the plane or possibly they spotted the helicopter out of the side window or something. Well, there was a conversation earlier, I forget who it was, talking about the FBI is hampered about getting rid of illegal aliens. Was it Holden or somebody? I don't mean to falsely attribute that. Who said that the FBI has gotten rid of all these agents? And well, they haven't, but they have gotten rid of some top administrators. 20 top officials ousted in a sweeping shakeup. FBI employees are terminated or forced to quit Thursday within hours of FBI Director Kash Patel's testimony. At least 20 executive assistant directors, and special agents in charge from throughout the U.S. were forced out of the agency, according to sources. Field offices where top officials lost their posts include Miami, New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Washington, D.C. Wow. So there you go. Those are the people in charge, not the agents. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is apparently in upheaval, according to the Associated Press. Foreign assistant freeze and staff departures. Trump administration changes have upended the U.S. agency charged with providing humanitarian aid to countries overseas, with dozens of senior officials put on leave, thousands of contractors laid off, and a sweeping freeze imposed on billions of dollars of foreign assistance. Well, it's a bad day to be leeching onto the taxpayer. USAID website has gone offline, ladies and gentlemen, and it's true, unless it's come back on since I went to the news. But earlier, the USAID website was no longer accessible. And what's that all about? I don't know. But the bottom line is and let me get to the page, and I'm going to show you what it looked like. We'll see if it's back online now. There it is. I'll try again, USAID. Nope. Let me get rid of the about thing and go to the USAID. Nope. It's still offline. Not working. Well, that's interesting. The Biden commutations angered even officials in the ludicrous Justice Department under Merrick Garland. The DOJ's career pardon attorney told prosecutors some of Biden's moves to shorten sentences were very upsetting. Jan Kotza, thank you for your subscription. In the weeks before leaving office, President Joe Biden and his advisors wanted to undo what they saw as an injustice and make history by cutting short the prison sentences of thousands of people behind bars for drug offenses. The zeal to achieve that goal resulted in a haphazard White House process that prompted anger and dismay inside the Justice Department. Only 258% or 10% of the recipients were recommended by the Justice Department on Biden's list. So he just issued these things to willy-nilly, including a Pennsylvania judge who falsely imprisoned minor children in jail for offenses they didn't commit to get millions of dollars in kickbacks from a for-profit prison to send children into prison, a few of whom committed suicide as a consequence of their incarceration, having committed no crime and being sentenced to sodomy in prison. And this man had a 17-year prison sentence, and he's walking the streets now. Thank you, Joe Biden. Well, here's what to know about Trump's tariffs. Canada, Mexico, and China account for more than one-third of products brought into the United States. Tariffs could lead to higher prices for consumers. True. They could also lead to consumers not buying these luxury goods. Some companies may try to pass the cost on to their customers by raising prices. Others may opt to eat the cost of the tariff. Companies may also try to force foreign suppliers to bear the burden by negotiating lower prices. And that's exactly what I said would happen. It isn't necessarily going to result in higher prices for consumers here in the United States. It could just lead to less profitability for overseas producers. Ian Matthews, thank you for your subscription. Well, Puxatawny Phil, the groundhog, famous in Pennsylvania, who apparently has lived for 1,000 years. Must be a different groundhog every year. Puxatawny Bill has popped out. Puxatawny Phil, not Bill. Puxatawny Phil has popped out here in Pennsylvania, and he has seen a shadow. Puxatawny Phil predicts 6 more weeks of winter after waking up to see a shadow on Groundhog Day. Puxatawny Phil woke up Sunday and saw a shadow, meaning that we are destined for 6 more weeks of winter, according to legend. Legend has it that if Puxatawny Phil, perhaps the world's most famous groundhog, sees his shadow, then winter will continue for another 6 weeks. But if he doesn't see a shadow, spring will come early. Get all these people showing up for the event. Puxatawny, Pennsylvania. Phil's actual prediction, however, takes place ahead of time in a place called Gobbler's Knob, a small hill just outside town, and has done so for each year since 1887. Wow, the weather in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania during the announcement was partly cloudy with temperatures hovering at about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow was expected later today. The men in top hats surrounding Phil during the ceremony are members of the Puxatawny Groundhog Club Inner Circle. According to their website, their role is to protect and perpetuate the legend of the great weather-predicting groundhog Puxatawny Phil. Obviously, it's not the same groundhog since 1887. In fact, Puxatawny Phil has predicted 6 more weeks of winter 107 times and early spring only 21 times, with no record of 10 of those years since 1887. Well, there you go. So 6 more weeks of winter here in the U.S. South Africa, here I come. I'm getting tired of all the cold. Oh, my goodness. Puxatawny Phil predicts 6 more weeks of winter here in the United States. What do you say, folks? What do you say? All right, let me get back to the chat. That's the news for today. But the proper name is Judea. Palestinians call it the West Bank. Exactly. Palestinians won't leave because they know they won't be allowed to return. I loathe that monster Netanyahu. He cares less about any Jews in the world, including Israelis. He only thinks of himself. Well, Annie, I have a very different view of Benjamin Netanyahu. Very different view. People fighting over the name of Judea. I heard we lost another soul. Yes, I covered that a short while ago, Jeantel. I think your text might have come in while I was doing that. So, yep. And then, Yasser Arafat began calling the Palestinians in. Carl Brown says, I've seen stories that Border Patrol in the northern encounter more dangerous intruders than feature on watch list. Well, I mean, that's interesting point that you make. I've been pointing out the hazards of the Canadian border and how it's even more porous than the Mexican border, because the Mexican border is wide open spaces, you know, there's a little scrub here and there, but the Canadian border is full of forest in a lot of places and easy ways to slip across, and it's largely undefended. It's also longer than the Mexican border by a wide stretch. So it goes from one side of the continent to the other, whereas the Mexican border is just a narrow portion in the southern United States, surrounded in the west by Baja California and in the east by the Gulf of America. I said it, the Gulf of America. No, it should be the Gulf of the Americas. Anyway, Gulf of Mexico, call it what you want. Anyway, yeah. So I've been pointing out the problem with the Canadian border for years, and I've done it on this channel over and over again and warned people that it's a serious problem. In fact, people quickly forget that after 9/11, we foiled a terrorist plot from Vancouver. We caught them coming across the border near Seattle, just north of Seattle. Yeah, no, people forget about that. I don't forget about that. I've known about it because as a counterintelligence agent, an Army counterintelligence agent, an intelligence analyst, it's something that's foremost in my mind. Canada's border is porous. As far as more deadly encounters and more serious encounters, I mean, that's a relative term, you know. When you've got 8 million people pouring across the border in the south, sheer numbers, you're going to get more than you get come across the north. Most people don't want to walk through the snow in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota to cross the border. Just saying. Or in Vermont. Hang on a second here. Something going on there. What's going on there? All right. So, farmers have expressed concerns with the price of beef. Many steers are being sold to Mexico. Predicts Mexico will go elsewhere to buy the beef, leaving us in the dust. Well, okay, Shawnee, that's a fair prediction. They may go elsewhere in the short term, but the reality is this. It's not cheaper to purchase beef from Argentina and ship it to Mexico. It's also not cheaper, and you can't get sufficient beef from Botswana to replace American beef. So, yeah, it can have a short-term effect, and it might have a long-term effect. It's the same sort of dynamic when South Africa's lockdown took place and the ANC idiotically banned the transport of alcohol, so they couldn't ship wine from the Western Cape to the port to get on boats and ship it over the United States. And when they did that, they became an unreliable supplier of wine to the United States. Fortunately, it was rescinded pretty quickly, so there's no long-term damage. It's the same thing could happen here. But if you keep an idiotic constraint in place, like a tariff or that ban on transport for too long, people go elsewhere and they may not come back. If they get the same quality or better price, they may not come back. But, wine is a fickle market. So beef is the same. Other than Argentinians claiming their beef is so amazing. Wesley Azi, thank you for joining us. Other than claiming their beef is so special, it's pretty much the same thing. So people are going to buy it wherever. Jonathan says you are a Zionist fanatic. Okay, Jonathan, I assume that you mean to insult me. I don't know why you insult me. I didn't call you a dipshit asshole, did I? So why'd you call me names? A Zionist fanatic. No, you're wrong. I'm not a Zionist. I wasn't alive during the Zionist movement. Zionism is over, despite the lies of leftists and those who hate Jews. No, Zionism was a movement to reestablish the Jewish homeland in Israel, in Judea, Samaria, and such. And that happened with the United Nations in 1948. So I really don't understand why you're calling me a Zionist. There's no such thing. No such thing. And I didn't call you names. So Jonathan, why are you insulting me? And I say insult, not because it offends me, but because calling someone a Zionist is an intentional effort to insult them. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Holden says, I know what trade wars usually develop into. Yeah, the collapse of the weaker opponent. Mm-hmm. Old maps, check the older names, and when it becomes Palestine, a good research, you only believe. What's this? I'm not sure what Shalom Hartenbos is talking about there. You guys are arguing about Palestine. Israel doesn't call it Judea and Samaria. The Bible calls it Judea and Samaria. Yeah, that's right, Charles. You're correct. The Romans called it Palestine after the Philistines. Yep. Last you checked, the East European Jews, along with the many USA, one there should not be there to start. I have no idea what you're talking about there. Are you making the argument that Eastern European Jews have no business being in Israel? Why? What's your basis for that argument? Should they be living in Russia where they'll be slaughtered in pogroms? They were only in Russia because they fled Israel centuries before. The only place in Mexico will go to buy beef is Brazil and Argentina, which leaves only Brazil under current leadership. Argentina will side with Trump. Yep. We're broke, no aid for you, says Larry. Israel wants to use USA to attack Iran. I hope Trump doesn't fall for it. Well, we don't need Israel to be concerned about Iran. Joe Biden and Barack Obama have put us on the precipice of nuclear annihilation, courtesy of their stupidity and their hatred of America. Yeah. Yep. We don't need Israel to be concerned about Iran. The world should be concerned about Iran. The word Palestine derives from Philistia, the name given by Greek writers to the land of the Philistines who were in the 12th century. Thank you, Nick Jordan. That is correct. That's where it comes from. They're Arabs. See those turkeys on the hill? That's the name of that place, Gobbler's Knob. No one could possibly make sexual. Yeah, I know, Gobbler's Knob. That's pretty funny. Well, that's what it was because male turkey, they're called gobblers. Turkeys are gobblers. Exactly. Zionism ended in 1948. That's what I said, Charles. Okay. What a load of nonsense. Well, okay. I mean, what a load of nonsense. Jonathan said I'm a Zionist. So if I'm a Zionist, then and I'm saying it doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. The Zionist Council in Israel is not Zionism. No more so than Somalia is actually Somalia in South Africa. The informal settlement of Somalia and Mogadishu in South Africa is not Somalia. That's located on the other end of the continent. Just because someone appropriates a name, just because the clowns in Cabo Delgado province call themselves ISIS doesn't make them ISIS. Just because Ghana calls itself Ghana, it isn't, well, I suppose we've accepted that that's Ghana now, but Ghana is not Ghana. That's the Gold Coast. It had no formal name by any group before Europeans arrived, and they called it the Gold Coast because they found gold there. So Ghana is actually an ancient kingdom located further up in the Sahel, not in modern-day Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah just stole that name. He appropriated it. Kind of like the racists appropriated the stars and bars, the flag of the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia. Kind of like the Nazis appropriated the swastika, a symbol of health and fertility in India and in Scandinavia. People just steal things all the time. Yasser Arafat stole Palestine. The Ottoman Empire stole Palestine. It's a Philistine name. So, whatever. Hope Trump loses this tariff stuff because he seems dumb because he doesn't understand the Americans have to pay for the tariffs. Again, Michael, I don't mean to insult you, but your logic isn't even remotely thought through. How many times do we have to tell you this? This will lead to potentially many outcomes, one of which would be a reduction in consumption of those foreign goods, where they can be replaced by American goods or from other suppliers abroad, which will account for some of it. Another thing will happen is that some of those suppliers will reduce their cost in order to keep their market share and eat the cost, or consumers simply won't buy. So when you say it's going to lead to them paying more, yes and no. Yes and no. Toby Scumby, thank you for subscribing there. So yes and no, Michael. And you think Donald Trump is dumb? Really? Okay, let's just run through the history of Donald Trump's tariffs. All right. I'm not a fan of tariffs. Again, I criticized George Bush for putting tariffs in, and I've criticized Trump for putting tariffs in the first term. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to nonsense about how tariffs don't work or the threat of tariffs don't work. They do work. Claudia Sheinbaum refused to take Mexican nationals back into Mexico until Trump threatened the 25% tariffs. She backed down. They started building camps on the Mexican side of the border for the Remain in Mexico policy to be reinstituted and to take Mexican nationals who are being repatriated back there. Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, refused to take detainees he'd already approved to land in Colombia, trying to play this silly game about, they're treated inhumanely. These are murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. You want them running around on the plane with military crew chiefs back there? They probably freaking hijacked the plane. It'd be Con Air all over again. Put down the bunny. Put down the bunny. Yeah. Seriously, you want the military to fly a C-17 to Colombia with murderers, rapists, and pedophiles and home invaders walking around freely, being served meals in the back of the C-17 instead of being restrained? These people are dangerous. That's why they're in the plane in the first place. And it was inhumane. Inhumane? We transport prisoners all over the world. You transport prisoners all over your country in handcuffs on planes. You don't put dangerous people on planes where they can run around and cause a plane to crash. Have you watched Con Air? Oh my gosh. Nick Cage was innocent in that movie, by the way. Anyway, that was self-defense. He was railroaded. Anyway, so Gustavo Petro said, he tried to look like, look at me. We will stand up to the big Don, El Dono. You cannot land here. You have been inhumane to our Colombians. Donald Trump's on the golf course. Oh, really? Is that the case? All right, 25% tariffs today. In 7 days, that goes to 50%. Let's see. No visas for Colombian diplomats. All entry for Colombian nationals banned. An hour later, hello, Mr. President. We're so sorry. Arriba. No. We take. Yeah. Tariffs do work. The threat of tariffs, particularly when you're in a position of power. If the United States was a weaker player in this, there'd be no power. Now, I'm not advocating for tariffs. In fact, quite the opposite. I prefer we don't have them. There's much harder ways to put the screws. Now, in Canada, the threat of tariffs to Canada led to Justin Trudeau announcing his resignation as leader of the Labour Party and leaving as the prime minister. Boy, Canadians couldn't have hoped for a better outcome than that. So those tariffs have all worked. And the Trump administration, Trump's tariffs on Chinese products led to the removal of some barriers on U.S. products entering the Chinese market. So you can say what you want about tariffs. You can call him dumb all day, Michael, but that doesn't make it true. It may be brash, foolhardy, foolish, ill-advised. You can make those claims, but Trump's not dumb. Dumb? The man has survived 2 assassination attempts. The man survived a dozen lawfare, illegitimate legal cases. The man survived the confiscation of $500 billion of his wealth. The man survived a stolen election, only to come back and beat their asses. The man isn't dumb. The man is brilliant. I don't like Donald Trump on a personal level, but it doesn't matter. Why people cannot live with the facts of reality here and live in their bubble of fantasy, calling Trump dumb. He's not dumb. Now, you heard me criticize Trump earlier in this broadcast, if you were here, about his bringing up DEI when he was giving a press conference about the mid-air collision. It was the wrong time. I criticized him. All right. All right, so 6H2 is obsessed with this World Zionist Organization, committed to Zionist enterprise for Israel education is vital and positive elements of contemporary Jewish life. What does that mean? I speak English in 6 languages. I don't understand what that means. Yep, and Chris Wyatt says Trump is an old businessman, knows how to play the long game. He won't lose. Even idiots knows that when he chucks a stick of dynamite into the lake to see what floats up, people sit up. Exactly, it gets people's attention. Fashioning an exemplary society in the Jewish state, expanding Zionist education, including Hebrew language instruction, settling the land, and combating anti-Semitism. Well, combating anti-Semitism is Zionism? No, that's a human right to protect people's rights and stop religious persecution. That's, anti-Christianity, anti-Islam. It's the same thing. Spreading Hebrew education, that's wrong. So should we not protect Afrikaans? Should we not protect Xhosa? That's just silly. Palestine, yeah, okay, we're back to that story again. Enough of that, okay. Why don't we talk about the biological program the USA was busy funding when the SARS released just a month after Trump signed executive order concerning the private and public? Because this isn't your fantasy hour, 9-6H2. It's not your fantasy hour. So you want to talk about that, make a channel, spread your fantasies. That's not the topic here. We cover the news. That's not a news topic. And we have a conversation about issues. It's not an issue worth talking about. You bring nothing to the table other than you're trolling. Yeah, that was funny with Colombia. In an hour, he backed down. He was on the golf course when he did that. All right, well, I've tolerated it not long enough, so I'll remove the statement and continue it. It will be a timeout. All right, so knock it off. I think Trump needs to admit that he could be wrong and bad things could happen with this policy. Okay, Michael, now you're calling Trump dumb. Do you not think that's a stupid idea? Okay, let's just play this out, okay? Hey, you ready for this? Okay, so I'm imposing immediately a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada for failing to protect our border, allowing untold amounts of deadly fentanyl to pour into our country and illegal aliens undermining our national security. Until Canada and Mexico stop this flood into our country of illicit drugs and illegal aliens, these tariffs will be in effect. So Michael wants Trump to come back and say, well, look, it was a dumb idea. I mean, I just imposed tariffs yesterday and, maybe it wasn't the smartest thing I could do. Do you really think that's a wise idea? Even if he's wrong, even if he is wrong, Michael, seriously? What would that accomplish? That would just devastate the world. My goodness. Yep. Anyway. All right, there you have it, folks. Let's take a look at what's going on the channel here. So we're 26,326 subscribers. Looks like we're still getting subscribers. I'm not sure if we're doing well there. Let me take a look, though, on the analytics for today. Erica, just ignore that. Ignore that. I'm ignoring it now. So we've gotten, that's February 1st, today's the 2nd. So we were about 10 short of 600 more subscribers today. That's pretty cool. And the numbers are back up. 8,000 last hour and 6,400 this hour. Renate is back. Trump would definitely not do anything to harm U.S. citizens. Exactly. Fentanyl has reached South Africa's shores. Really? I was unaware that fentanyl had made it to South Africa. You've got Mandrax, you've got Dacha, you've got cocaine. You got all kinds of challenges, but I didn't know that you had fentanyl issues. That's sad. Of course, the precursors, most of that stuff is produced in China, and it's just their way. Anyway, somebody said as a South African, let me see this. I feel like I'm on a burning ship. That's interesting. As a South African, I feel like I'm in a burning ship in the middle of an ocean. The ship run by pyromaniacs who can't even tell the stem from the stern. We the people have only one bucket to throw water with, and it's full of holes. Yeah, that's a good description. Democracy doesn't work when the vast majority are ignorant, uneducated, and racially indoctrinated. We tried fixing education. The schools were burnt down because of the low-level education being offered. When they took over existing schools, they couldn't cope with the high level of white education, so they dumbed it down to 30% pass rate, and it's still too high. Functional grade mathematics is if you can tell the difference between a mathematical equation from a regular text on a page. It's enough to pass. No need to understand the equation. The problem will never be fixed by diplomacy or playing nicely, being too careful to hurt feelings. It would take very dramatic and unpopular moves to get this country out of the downward spiral. Thank you, Krumik. Out of the downward spiral. For all of us who live here, who are born here, and who wish to survive here, racism will never die if it's constantly being pushed forward. If I were offered a job of being a brain surgeon with a fantastic salary, I would have to turn it down. I know nothing about brain surgery and would end up killing people. I'm not qualified, but so many of the high-profile positions in this country are filled by somebody's friend who gladly takes the salary. Spot on, David. That was a comment on my video that I just published a short while ago. That's a brilliant, well said, 49 seconds ago. Brilliant. I'm letting him know I just read his comment live and on air. That is a brilliant comment there, whoever David is. So a little bit of notoriety there for David. Thank you for that. All right, so Tick. I forgot about Tick. Yeah, my bad. I forgot all about Tick. Yeah. So anyway, wow, folks, it's been a crazy period of time since Donald Trump became president on January 20th. It's now been 2 weeks tomorrow. Can you imagine that? 2 weeks already in Trump presidency. He's moving with alacrity. Most of what he's done, a lot of people are pretty confident and happy with. Some of it people are not so happy with. No, it's not David Ansara. Rynette is still here. She never left. Rynette. Okay. We also have Tim. I don't know what that is. Val's trying to be funny. I'm not getting it. What about Rwanda? What's going on there? I think it's worth trying something different in the world. Yeah, I think that's the bottom line here. Things aren't working. They were working 30 years ago. They're not working now. You know, it's kind of sad. Rolling back the clock, I had so much hope at the end of the Cold War when the wall came down. And then we got this idiot named Bill Clinton who came to the White House, is too busy, spreading his legs behind the Resolute desk, from an intern, to focus on what was going on in the world. And he stumbled us through Somalia. He just cocked up Somalia. Let's go back to Somalia and talk about that. George Herbert Walker Bush, sent 25,000 American troops to Somalia to do something I never thought any American president would ever do, to intervene to protect starving Africans. Now, for those who don't remember what happened there, in October of 1992, November of 1992, after he lost the election. I said October. It was October when the Black Hawk Down happened. In November 1992, after George Bush had already lost the election, he sent 25,000 U.S. troops to Somalia, Marines and Army soldiers, to ensure that UN food relief would get through to starving Somalis. There was a bit of a drought, and there was a human-exacerbated drought because the warlords were stealing the food and distributing it to their favored friends and patronage network, and not to those who needed it because they weren't in their team. So U.S. troops went there and escorted the food, and the famine was averted, and over 800,000 Somalis didn't starve to death because of U.S. intervention. George Bush left office a few months after that when he lost the election, because he'd already lost the election. He left in January. And Bill Clinton came in and had no idea what he was doing. So instead of withdrawing from Somalia now that the food supplies had gotten through, he decided that, hey, it's a good idea to do nation building. And then he reduced the size of U.S. force from 25,000, it was actually over 30,000 at its peak, reduced it down to just under 4,000 troops total. I think it was 2,800 when Black Hawk Down happened. I could have that number incorrect, but reduced the troops by like 85, 90%. And then on top of that, not only reduced the number of troops there, but then added missions and gave them a nation building and a peacemaking mission, which they weren't equipped for. And then we saw what happened. Black Hawk Down. That's what happened. And all those Somalis who died, at least 600, maybe 1,000, 800,000 people died that day in that fight, and those Americans, and what happened to them, including a local resident here from Pennsylvania, Randy Shugart. Gary Gordon, Randy Shugart, true heroes. Men who knew that they were going to their certain death, and they fast roped in on the fourth request, being denied 3 times by the air commander, air operations commander. And the fourth one, they fast roped in and did all they could to keep that crew alive. The only one who survived was Michael Durant. He's still alive to this day for the sacrifice that Randy Shugart and Gary Gordon made in Somalia in 1993 because of Bill Clinton. And the world went to shit. What happened shortly after that? Rwanda. And what happened to the White House Situation Room when the issue was raised about doing something to stop the genocide because people were being butchered with machetes, pungas, slaughtered? Can you imagine being murdered with a punga? By the hundreds of thousands, including Westerners. They locked up Catholic nuns in a church and burned them to death. Europeans, white folks. In France, the United Nations, Kofi Annan, Bill Clinton sat around and did nothing. And how do I know this? Because I was assigned to a military unit that had a warning order to deploy to Rwanda. Just before I left to go back to the Intelligence Officer Advanced Course, we had an order. And if I recall correctly, this occurred, July, August of 1994. I'm getting old. Maybe those dates are wrong, but sometime around then. And what happened? In the White House Situation Room, Susan Rice says, well, if we call it a genocide, how will that affect the midterm elections? That's what the Clinton administration was worried about. Whether they'll lose power, which they did. But they didn't lose it because of calling Rwanda genocide. They lost it because they were idiots. That's what the Democrats care about. Not people, not homosexuals, not transgenders, not women, not blacks, not Latinos, not Jews, not Muslims. They don't care about any of you all. All they care about is craving political power, self-aggrandizement, and self-enrichment. That's all you need to know. And anybody votes Democrat, you're part of the problem. There you go. All right. People try to get high with the craziest things. You're right about that. You're right about that, 6H2. From catalytic converter to selling dead bodies. Yeah. Oh, what about people who, murder and chop up albinos for the muti? These are sick people. Some twisted world out there. Truly twisted world out there. Twisted world. Blaine Nienaber, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your subscription. Of course, the nuns were raped in the Congo. Yep. Well, if you go back to the Belgian Congo crisis, Dawn Harris, thank you. Go back to the Belgian Congo crisis in the 1960s when Erica and her family fled and escaped from Katanga, courtesy of Moise Chombe, who helped them get out, a family friend. When that was happening, the nuns in the eastern Congo, in the Goma area, were murdered. Hilton Preen, thank you. Were murdered and then chopped up, and they were eaten by cannibals. They found them frozen like, beef in the grocery store in the refrigerators there. Alex von Ostveen, thank you. Radiance Blue, thanks for this channel. Great content and factual information. Appreciate a channel like this. Well, I hope so too, Radiance Blue. I've been sanctioned and punished by YouTube ever since January of 2021 when they stopped my original channel. And then they kept it in the gulag for 2 years. And I've rebuilt this channel from scratch. I got a lot of help early on from Ronaldo Chuz, who was angry that I got censored and would ask people to come subscribe and help me get back to 1,000 so I could live stream again pretty quickly within a month. But we've been going since April of 2021 on this channel, so it'll soon be 4 years. But it's been 5 years this month since I started doing this YouTube thing right after I left active duty. I couldn't do an active duty because I was serving intelligence officer. Yeah, I deal in facts, folks. I deal in facts. And I'm biased. We're all biased. But I'm objective in my analysis. You've heard me criticize the Trump administration for things I think were inappropriate for them to do today, and I have a strong basis for making it. I've also praised them. And, I've pointed out things that are just not legitimate. Sierra Leone Civil War, there was plenty of that going on. Oh, you mean the cannibalism? Well, there's all kinds of things. The Sierra Leone Civil War is one of the most brutal we're ever going to see. We had the Rough United... Revolutionary United Front, excuse me, I had to think for a second. Revolutionary United Front, the Rough under Fode Sanko, that kidnapped children, hopped them up on drugs, forced them to have sex with their parents on occasion, and then usually had them murder their parents for being duplicitous in the elections. There was a symbol where in that Sierra Leone election, people said, be counted, raise your hand and vote. So they went around and used pangas to whack people's hands off. Sometimes one hand, sometimes both hands. It was horrific. And it wasn't one or two people. We're talking about thousands of people this happened to. Absolutely brutal. Child soldiers, rape, torture, murder. No value for life whatsoever, what happened there. And I've been to Sierra Leone and seen the aftermath of it. It's interesting because in Sierra Leone, the British government took the lead in rebuilding the Royal Sierra Leonean Armed Forces, the RSLAF. In Liberia, because of our historical relationship, which we don't want, with Liberia, the United States government agreed to take the lead under George Bush for rebuilding Liberia, particularly the military. So we rebuilt the Armed Force Liberia. They rebuilt the RSLAF. George Steinberg, thank you, George. George, have you never been a member? No. It doesn't say how many months. I missed that. Okay. So, so there was a very different approach. In Liberia, U.S. government took the decision to disband the old military. There was just too many problems with it. So start from scratch. Now, that creates a host of problems, experience, leadership, but that comes later. In Sierra Leone, they decided to keep the military and try to reform it. Well, that creates a whole host of problems. When you've got rapists, murderers, drug dealers, autocrats serving in uniform, who were part of the problem in the Civil War, it's kind of hard to reform that. So both programs had their own problems and shortcomings. Both had their strengths. One of the strengths of the Sierra Leone effort from the Brits was that they didn't have to come up with captains and majors and lieutenant colonels. They already had them with the experience. Whereas in Liberia, I inherited an army of 105 soldiers when I arrived there in 2007. The target was 2,000 soldiers and turning it back over to Governor Liberia. Well, getting there was very difficult. And as soon as I arrived, my first question was, what are we going to do for platoon leaders, company commanders, first sergeants, platoon sergeants, battalion staff for this new army? And this is the response I got from the Liberians. Dana Popa, thank you for joining us. And the response I got from the UN was, the response I got from the Nigerian staff that were embedded with the Ministry of Defense with Brownie Samakai was, and the response I got from the U.S. government, State Department was like, well, that's why we brought you here, Wyatt. I got a cop out from my own government. So I was handicapped. So what did I do? I came up with a plan. I said, you know what? ECOWAS wants to be part of the solution in Liberia. Why don't we let ECOWAS do what the Brits have always done and second, they say second, not second, second officers with the requisite experience as platoon leaders and company commanders, particularly company commanders, to be the initial company commanders in the armed forces of Liberia while we train the army, because they're under our control. So it's not like they're a real army. So why don't we do that? So I took the proposal to Brownie Samakai and to General Abdur Suraj Rahman, very good human being, by the way, who passed away about a decade ago, took it to them in the Ministry of Defense. And like so many things I took to Brownie Samakai and to the Ministry of Defense, I get a meh. Only for a few months later for them to co-op my idea, even take my slides and rearrange the material, put on their own slides, and then present it to me as their idea. So was I offended? Nah. I was smart enough as a relatively young major at the time to realize I got promoted lieutenant colonel by the time I made this proposal. Right after I got promoted lieutenant colonel. I was a major when I proposed. That's probably why they ignored it. But as a senior major and soon to be lieutenant colonel, I didn't take offense. So I presented to them, and like, no, we can't have foreign nationals in command of our troops. I said, they're not in command. This is an administrative role. They present an example. They have experience as leaders in their own military. They come here. We take only the best. You vet them. They come here. They fill in. They're not commanding units. You're not going to war. You're not doing peacekeeping. They're under our responsibility. So there'll be oversight from us. And they're like, no. So 2 months later, I get called to Ministry of Defense. Up steps the Nigerians. We have a proposal we'd like the Americans to agree to. Okay, I'm listening, Minister. What's your proposal? We would like to, we are going to, they already told us, we are going to bring ECOWAS officers in to be the company commanders for these new companies that you're forming. And I pause and I'm thinking, what the you mean what I asked for 2 months ago and we've wasted 2 months now? We could have had them in here? I didn't say that. That's going through my brain. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a pretty good idea. That's a pretty good idea. And so I let them take credit for it. I mean, I wasn't going to get promoted for that. I wasn't going to get wealthy off that. And my ego wasn't hurt. But the reality is I knew the truth. My staff knew the truth. The American government knew the truth. And that's all that mattered. So, but the problem is that be careful what you wish for, because we got those officers. And when those officers came in, guess what happened? They were assigned to the Ministry of Defense, but then put in position at the barracks. So they didn't report to us like they were supposed to. They were spies for the Ministry of Defense. And in fact, only one of the 3 company commanders who came initially was even remotely qualified from my perspective. Yep, the Ghanaian. The Nigerian and the Sierra Leonean officer came, they were useless. And they spied. They were told that they worked for the Nigerian general and that they'd tell him everything. So they weren't really adults. They were children, in my view. And they would listen to rumor and innuendo and not listen to facts and ignore what information they were given by my trainers and by myself. And they run off the Ministry of Defense. Oh, they're doing this, they're doing this. Almost none of which was true, and it was inflammatory, and it just ruined the relationship. So yeah, be careful what you ask for, folks. Sometimes you get what you ask for. It doesn't work out. But I had to have a solution. You can't have an army of 2,000 soldiers and no one that's been in the army for over 18 months and have a first sergeant, a platoon sergeant, squad leaders, team leaders, platoon leaders, company commanders, staff for the battalion, battalion XO, battalion commander. Those people require experience. They require actual time in uniform. Yep. Anyway, what is going on in the chat over here? Let me get back here. Oh, boy. What is going on? I missed something here. All right. I appreciate the general tone of your comment. Drug addicts. Okay. Oh, that was Radiance Blue. That's where I was at. Okay. Beverly Nawakal says, just to let you know, Chris, they have started land grabs. It's okay. See, Beverly, look, not direct to you, but this is what's so frustrating. I'm aware of that. And in fact, I was the first person other than, thanks to Chris Ehlers, the first person other than the Polokwane reporter observer and a reporter from SABC. No one else covered this. I covered this, and I covered it yesterday. So let me give you the link to that. In that video I covered, and I posted it last night. I know. So I'm aware of it. Thank you for sharing that, Beverly. But my point is that I covered this story, and I made a video specifically about it. It took me some time to do it. But I made it last night. That video, by the way, is at 61,000 views. It's slowed down a bit, but it's got 400 new subscribers. Thank you for that. Still getting about 1,500 views per hour. So Beverly, maybe when you're done here, you might want to check out that video and see what I have to say. But thank you for noting it. I appreciate you sharing it. But I did get the word yesterday from Chris, and I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning again to make sure that I got the David Duplessis. Thank you for subscribing. That's David, the guy who I think that's the guy who I actually quoted on air. I hope that's him. So Beverly, thanks for the tip-off. I do appreciate tip-offs, folks, but I did cover that, and I made a video specifically about it. Patrick's talking about membership. I'm not sure what that's about. And then gulags. Okay, Sierra Leone War, there was plenty of that going on. Okay, Gitmo. Looks like he favored an M4 over the M16. Okay. Chris deals in truth, history, and plenty of knowledge from all 5 corners of the world. Thank you for that, Greg. Appreciate that. Little 14 years old eating their enemy's heart. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about Sierra Leone. It was horrible. Arsenal is winning. I'm not a soccer fan, but thank you for sharing. What else we got here? Taylor, ICC put him in prison. Well, that was collusion between the Nigerians and the Americans. We set Taylor up. Charles Taylor was set up. So Charles Taylor left Liberia on the agreement they would get safe refuge and asylum in Nigeria. So Nigeria and America set that up, and we got him out of the country. It was brilliant. Well done. He left. He went to Nigeria. Then, sometime later, the U.S. and Nigeria started dropping hints and, spreading rumors and putting credible information that the Americans were about to come arrest him. The agreement was he would stay in Nigeria. So fearing for his life, he fled to the border and got caught. And that was the basis they used to send him to The Hague. They prosecuted him because he broke the agreement. Yeah, they set Charles Taylor up. Now, look, it couldn't happen to a better guy. I mean, the guy deserves to be in prison, but I mean, I'm just saying that's what happened. There's the theory that Khazarians, I don't know what that's all about. Okay. Why were they selling religion to savages? Every Jack comes. I don't know what we're talking about, Mark. April 4th, 1984. I have no idea what Steak is talking about. You're allowed to talk about this. Isn't it classified? Chinese were the original mine workers. Only after 1092 to 1906. What are you guys talking about? I can't keep up with that. There's some chat going on over here. I have no idea. Nick Jordan says, was the 300-kilometer cruise missile the South America was developing with the nail ever put to certain? Not to my knowledge. Not open source anyway. Ronaldo, watch Godless next, Chris. Yeah, I've seen that. Ronaldo, host in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Ronaldo. Did you do a stream today? I'm sorry, you've been doing Sunday streams. If you did, you ended it quickly. It's only. Oh no, you would have come on at 12. Yeah, so your stream would have been over. Sorry about it. How'd your stream go, Ronaldo? By the way, Ronaldo asked me to watch American Primeval, and I sent him a couple text messages this morning about this, so I'm going to talk about that very quickly here. So I watched American Primeval. I will say, fantastic cinematography, excellent period uniforms and appearance and vernacular, pretty darn good. And taking historical events and looping it into historical fiction, well done. That's all impressive. And from that standpoint, I liked it. But I will tell you right now that I was disappointed in the series for a number of reasons. Number one, they really pissed me off with all the characters they killed off. Number two, virtually everything that happened in the show was eminently predictable. I predicted everything that was going to happen, almost every single thing before it happened. And so it was not a surprise. But boy, the scenes are incredible. But the show really pissed me off. And I understand why the Church of Latter-day Saints is upset about it. The depiction of Brigham Young is insulting. The depiction of Brigham Young is very insulting in that series. But look, it's Hollywood, so they get away with what they want. Also, the depiction of Jim Bridger leaves a bit to be desired, although the character is very sympathetic in the show. But yeah, Ronaldo, I watched it, and it left me wanting. And if it comes back, I'll probably watch it again. But it's Hollywood, so I'm not, whatever. It's Hollywood. So, jihadism will find its prime in Africa. Jihadism is alive and well in the Sahel and in East Africa and in a few other places. If I was in South Africa, I'd get general's rank, but I'd be one of 1,000. Well, there's actually 400 generals in the South African military, unless they've reduced that. Evie says it was mentioned in the congressional confirmation that China's anti-American propaganda is a problem. If they go after that, do you think it will help South Africa? No, I don't think it have any impact whatsoever for South Africa. Yep. Someone brought up mining. For what? Love Landman. I haven't seen that. It was a cowboy and Indian movie. Okay. Godless is less gruesome, but more of a storyline. It's character growth. Yeah. No, I've seen the adverts for it. Look, I will say this. As far as a Western goes, American Primeval is brilliant. It's a really good Western. Really well done. But anyway, it's worth watching, folks. It's worth watching. So there's 6 episodes. If you want to go watch it on Netflix. I enjoyed it as it unfolded, but in the end I was left wanting. So that's kind of where I was at. It's like watching Braveheart, a good watch, but total fiction. Listen to the Welshman. It's not total fiction. It's not total fiction. William Wallace is a historical figure. William Wallace was betrayed by Scots. William Wallace put Edward's army to flight. That's all true. Now, the actual words and events and things that unfold in the movie, yeah, whatever. I'll tell you though, I went to watch that movie and I had no idea that the damn thing was so long. I just arrived at Iowa State University. It was 1995 when Braveheart came out, and it was before it was the summer of '95, and it was before the term started. It may have been May or June. I think I saw it, if I remember correctly. And I went to the theater in Ames, Iowa, and I bought a ticket because it's Mel Gibson. It looked interesting, a period piece. I went in and watched it, and I didn't even realize how much time had passed. But like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes into it, the film just stops. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And people got up and started going to buy popcorn. And I went back and a sign came and said intermission. I'm like, intermission? How long is this damn movie? It was like 3 hours. Ronaldo says, how the hell do you remember all this? It's a gift. But I tell you, I got to tell you that I think I might need Prevagen, or I need some seashells or something like that, or, or crustaceans. Because over the past year, I've had increasing difficulty remembering celebrities' names. I don't know what that's all about. But it's coming back to me now, I suppose. But how to remember it? Well, it's just that my hard drive has got a lot of free space, and I fill it up. Taylor Sheridan, Yellowstone. Okay. All right, well, I'll check it out. Yeah, that was such a long movie. I had no idea it was that long, but it was good. I love it. It was fantastic. Great movie. One of Mel Gibson's best ever. Almost as bad as The Patriot. The Patriot wasn't bad. That's actually based on history, too. Tarleton was a real historical figure, and those militias and Tories and Patriots, what they did to each other in the Carolinas was just as brutal as what unfolded in that show. Yep. What do you do with the 3 seashells? That's from a movie. The 3 seashells. Oh, my goodness. Anyway. Yeah, listen, folks, let me just run through where we're at right now. We're at 26,362. Is that right? That seems like it was where it was the last time I looked. 26,362 subscribers. Thank you for that. The video I did and I released when this stream started, even though some of you have been here watching this program, is 8,700 now. Is that correct? 8,700 after just 2 hours. So that's good. Not fantastic, but good. It's running about 4,200 views per hour, which is lower than the Trump video by about a third, but still pretty good. The land invasion one I did is at 61,000 views. Thank you for that. 412 subscribers from that. Thank you for that. The Trump video now. So that one has 166,000 views. It's still going. It's been pretty consistent in between 800 and 1,000 views all morning long. That's pretty good. So thank you for that. So the trailer, the data for that's a little bit behind, but that video, which has 161,000 views, is at least 31,000 views more than I got on my Trump video on my original channel. So I'm just going to talk to you about, Gabe McKenzie recently said that he was interviewed. I don't know what it's all about. I made a video because I'm curious. He was interviewed and he said he thinks it's unfair that content creators in South Africa aren't paid the same as elsewhere. So his point is that you're being underpaid as content creator. And I'm puzzled by that because unless you're under contract or someone's sponsoring you, you're not getting a salary. So what you get paid for is based on what you earn. So what I mean by that is the following. We've talked about this. Advertising, revenue per minute rates, RPM, are exponentially higher in America, the United Kingdom, than they are in South Africa or Ghana or somewhere like that. Because the ads that are being presented to you are ads to a targeted audience. We're not going to target normally, although sometimes the ads slip through because the software isn't right, but we're not going to normally target an ad for Wendy's to South Africans because you don't have Wendy's. You can't buy from Wendy's, okay? Now, you might get an ad for Google or an ad for Microsoft or, for something like that, but you're not normally going to get it. Also, your market is a fraction. Your consumer market, while you have 63 million people in South Africa, your consumer market is tiny. America has 200 plus million consumers out of 330 million people. So there's a lot of money there, trillions of dollars in consumer purchases, where you just have a few tens of millions in South Africa. So you're going to pay a lot less for adverts for South Africa. So the reason I mention this is that that video with 167,000 views now is 37,000 views more than my Trump video. Now, I haven't looked at the Trump videos since I saw my earnings for it in November when it had 130,000 views. At that time, the current amount of revenue that I got from that video for 37,000, Yuri, thank you for subscribing, for 37,000 less viewers. The reason I'm mentioning this is that Trump video was mostly viewed by Americans on my original channel because it was Trump and the lawsuits back in November. And so most of the people saw it were Americans. So I got higher ad revenue for them watching it. Most of the people watching my Trump is not playing around South Africa video, the 167,000 views, are South Africans. Okay? So I have made 4 times as much ad revenue, 4 times, 400% ad revenue for that Trump video, which less views than I've made off the Trump video about South Africa. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you why there's a disparity between what people in South Africa earn and what people in America earn. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah, you don't get ads for Tupperware either. Yep. Do people running ad blockers influence ad revenue on YouTube? Yeah, they do. They do. They reduce ad revenue to content creators. You seen the new Civil War film? I haven't seen any Civil War film. Dylan says Erica's his mother. That's not true. We like the Trump video. Thank you, Teresa. I liked it too. I thought it was pretty good. I actually liked the Rob Hershoff interview too. So for those of you who watched it live, we had a problem. When Rob contacted me, his audio wasn't coming through. So after about a minute, he could hear me, but I couldn't hear him. I asked him to, leave and come back. He left and came back. I could hear him. But there was a glitch in the streaming software that when I went live moments later, you couldn't hear me talk. So I realized what the problem was about a minute and a half into the broadcast. But the first minute and a half was silent. So when people watched it after the fact, they were frustrated. Well, rather than keep people frustrated, which would turn people off, they're like, oh, there's no audio. I'm leaving this. Rob mentioned to me, he said, hey, you should edit that. Well, I've tried to edit it on YouTube, but the editor on YouTube sucks. So what I did is I took the Zoom digits that I had saved from the broadcast, and I edited them because we talked for about 6 minutes before that, and you don't need to hear that. We took that off, and then I talked for about 6 minutes after, took that off, upload it, but that 37-minute video was a 1 gigabyte video by doing it that. So I reloaded that and that video. So we had 5,000 views on the live stream before I made it private for members only. And on the one that's come up since then, which I loaded yesterday, that video has 29,000 views. So between the two of them, that's 34,000 views for an interview. That's the most I've ever had for an interview. So my thanks to Rob Hersoff and the conversation to all those of you who've watched it. I've gotten 639 subscribers from that. But just to give you an idea, with 29,000 views, ad revenue from mostly South Africans is $3.51. That'll buy one of these, but not after taxes and YouTube's cut. Yeah, so that's all I got from that. Anyway, not a complaint, just letting you know, folks. Just give you an idea. All right, so have you watched the movie, read the book, Hillbilly Elegy? Yeah, no, I've not seen the movie. I have the book. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like J.D. Vance as a candidate for vice president. I came around to Vance's candidacy after I saw his debate performance, but Hillbilly Elegy is very insulting. J.D. Vance is not from Appalachia. He's a liar. J.D. Vance is from Western Ohio, which is not in Appalachia. He would spend part of his summers with his grandparents in Appalachia, but that doesn't make him an Appalachian. I lived in Appalachia, I farmed in Appalachia, and I went to high school in Appalachia and graduated from an Appalachian high school. And I found J.D. Vance's Hillbilly Elegy to be an incredibly insulting book to Appalachians and to Melungians in particular. So anyway, that said, I forgave the guy because he's articulate, he's brilliant, he's a smart guy. He's got his head screwed on straight, much better than most of the people out there. So, yep, but I am familiar with it. Bianca. You should go to South Africa and interview them in a podcast setting, not too much though. Who? Rob? Well, we'll see. And Gate McKenzie, we'll see. Rob promised to get me in touch with Gate McKenzie, and that may happen. I'll give it a little bit of time because these things don't always happen immediately. Plus, I don't know how much flexibility Gayton has. So, anyway. So there's a Penny Dudley just subscribed. Thank you for that. You should try the new Deep Six. No, I'm not using Deep Six. I enjoy watching different guys that chip each other. Huh. What's Trump's warning ISIL? I thought you said he annihilated them. Well, Pablo, Trump hasn't been in office for 4 years. He did annihilate them. They've reconstituted in different places. That's what cockroaches do. When you exterminate them, those who survive on the fringes go elsewhere and start their nonsense there and build their colonies there. Yeah, Pablo, I did say it. Trump did annihilate them in 4 months. We got to keep in mind, Gate McKenzie's a very busy minister in a very prosperous country. He is a very busy minister, not a very prosperous country. So there you go. Yep, and I did the VBS bank scandal video last night. Let's see how that one's doing. That one's, it's not doing particularly well, 4,600, but we've gotten some subscribers from it, so thanks for that. I'm looking to see how many dislikes. Okay, the dislikes are piling in now, but I mean, mine are 755 likes, 4 dislikes on the Trump video. Let me see some of the comments on that, folks. Been to Appalachia, Smoky Mountains, like knives in the forest. Okay. I, for one, say the ANC has provoked Israel, threatened Rwanda, and trash talked the USA. These 2 countries are allies. South Africa has no defense force. Yep, right. And someone saying, please, Trump, look over here. America still doesn't understand that democracy doesn't work in Africa. No, America understands. The money didn't go where it was meant to go. ANC had enough money to... Well, on that comment, where people saying the money didn't go where it was meant to go, almost none of the aid that goes to South Africa goes to the government of South Africa. it goes to third parties. USAID used to give money to governments back in the day, but with all the corruption and theft in the 70s and 80s, it became quite apparent that we couldn't trust African governments to spend the money on what they promised to spend it on. So we switched up to a model that mostly means the aid goes to third parties. That's why NGOs, particularly American NGOs, have their nose in Africa. So Catholic Relief Services, headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland, just down the road from here, they get lots of money from the U.S. government to perform services all over Africa for health, reproductive things, for feeding programs and such. I worked with Catholic Relief Services in Uganda when I was there, and I've seen firsthand what they do. I'm saying they don't do good work, but that's a non-government organization based in the United States doing things in Africa, not the government of Uganda. The government of Uganda wasn't getting that money. So, and that's just one example. Just one example. Born and bred in South Africa, stop financing the use of the South African government. USA should pull its financial support to all foreign countries. Wow. I agree with most of what you said, but I do think you should look at Professor Mearsheimer's work regarding the Ukraine war and what led up to it. Russia should not have invaded. That has nothing to do with the video, Alex. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate your thoughts. I'll read that comment a little bit later on, but it has nothing to do with this video. So, Ron Wyatt, he passed away. I don't know who Ron Wyatt is. You think the U.S. is benevolent? Let's be real here. Noam Chomsky. Okay, that's Germ's friend. That's not a trusted source there. Germ is, but not Noam Chomsky. And Nathan Robinson actually break this down in their book, The Myth of American Idealism. And honestly, it's hard to ignore the pattern. Sure, America talks a big game about spreading democracy and doing good. No, I never said that. That wasn't in my video. And this person, Phil, is not even listening to what I said in the video. But let's look what's happening on the ground. We've got to stop buying the fairy tale. Every time the U.S. invades, overthrows a government, or props up some dictator handout. Okay, see, this is just nonsense. This is what leftists do. They distract, they obfuscate, and they pretend that the topic is something else. My video on Trump has nothing to do with invasions or any of that. I read 2 programs which benefit South Africans from which we derive virtually no benefit whatsoever. Number one, PEPFAR costs us $500 billion. Or not $500 million to South Africa every year. Why? What do we get from that? What do we get from that? Someone might argue that, well, American NGOs. No, the NGOs in South Africa are not American NGOs. They're South African NGOs that the money goes to. South Africans benefit, not Americans. So what does that have to do with American benevolence? You know, it is generosity. And if you can't see that, Phil 200, that's your blindness. That's your arrogance. That's your leftist worldview. Just like 25,000 troops going into Mogadishu in November of 1992. That was benevolence to ensure that people didn't starve to death. If you can't see that, if you can't see the truth, then you can't be helped. You're just a leftist hate wanker who can't deal with reality. This is the difference between me and so many of these social media commentators. They're blind. Ben Shapiro can only see Israel. That's all he sees. Crowder can only see campuses. That's all he sees. Sticks Hexenhammer has his worldview. Salty Cracker can only insult Democrats. That's what he sees. I objectively analyze all these actors and fairly comment and criticize and praise them when it's appropriate. I mean, I praised Julius Malema recently. Can you imagine that? I almost fell out of my chair. I had to do that. But, you know, it's faint praise because what he did wasn't legitimate. Anyway, the point here is that, but it's not about helping people. It's about power, control, and resources. Oh, he's got more here. I didn't see this. Oh, he's got a lot more here. Okay. Okay. So how is it about power? What power do we derive from giving my tax dollars to keep South Africans who didn't wear a condom from dying from HIV? What benefit do I get from that? Do I get to feel good? Does it give me access to the South African market? I don't get any access. Do I get benefits? Do I get super chats? No. It just takes my tax dollars. No, I'm not saying it's bad or evil, but don't deny that it's not a public good. Good Lord. Sure, the U.S. does some military things, but it's like an arsonist handing out Band-Aids after starting a fire. What fire did we start in South Africa? And don't give me Kissinger. You know, you got to get over the Kissinger thing. That's a red herring. So what? 1994. ANC. Let's go to 95 when the Constitution is written up. What fire did we start in South Africa? Please, anybody here? What fire did the United States start in South Africa? The only thing we've done is ignore the malfeasance of the ANC. You could accuse us of that. You could accuse us of facilitating the ANC's malgovernance by keeping them from having to provide all this money and resources. That's a fair criticism. That wasn't the intent, but that is the actual outcome. But start a fire. It's implied here that South Africa's diplomacy should accommodate an unstoppable demagogue rather than respect its own ideals when it suggests the ANC refrain from pissing him off. No. What's implied is not implied. What is stated? What is stated in my video is that the ANC is doing things contrary to the U.S. And then you want to cry because we're going to turn off HIV aid? We're going to turn off AGOA access? No. You're taking us for suckers, Phil. You are a sovereign nation. Do what the frick you want. But don't expect us to give you money when you work counter to our interest. These people are comical. That is submission, not strategy. For the record, I'm not an ANC apologist, but let's not act as though pacifying a capricious leader improves diplomatic autonomy. It's not the opposite. It has the opposite effect. The myth of American benevolence isn't just meeting. It's harmful. It encourages imperialism, defense. Look, Phil, Phil, I encourage Phil 200 to just go have an exorcism because you're possessed by demonic spirits, my friend. You can't deal in the real world. You want to criticize the United States for Iraq? Fine. You want to criticize the States for Afghanistan? Fine. You want to criticize the United States for its leadership and its overwhelming contributions to the World Bank and IMF because you don't like the way it comes out? Fine. We can talk about that. But telling me that we started a fire by giving you $500 million frickin' dollars every year because your government is a bunch of thieves and doesn't take care of South Africans? Now they're, oh no, we provide 75%. Bullshit. Bullshit, ANC. That's a lie. It's a lie. Show us the figures. Show me the receipts. Give me the receipts. I want to see the receipts. You've had 22 years of our generosity, $8 billion, keeping South Africans alive, preventing the spread of HIV, while you sat on your ass, Thabo and Becky. This is just racism. These evil white people say the black men can't keep their penises in their pants. This is terrible. We will not tolerate this. You cannot send your antiretrovirals here. No nevirapine for expectant mothers. Are you high? Are you serious? And Phil wants a question? Our gift of nevirapine? You didn't even pay for this shit. We did. 600,000 South Africans are living today with HIV. That was unnecessary. Unnecessary. Because of Thabo Mbekis's tiny penis ego. Because he's too arrogant and ass to see the truth. Unbelievable. And all those have facilitated this garbage. You know the one thing about Jacob Zuma that was actually good? The one thing about Jacob Zuma, he reversed that nonsense and allowed this aid to flow in. Unbelievable. And what benefit do we get from AGOA? How many times do I have to tell people this? We get nothing. The U.S. government allows your goods to come in. We lose 2% revenue on every dollar of the stuff you sell in America. Why? So that you respect property rights, which you're not doing. So that you have democratic elections, which you do. So that you ensure services delivery, health, and education for your population, which you don't do. Why should you be rewarded for malfeasance? The days of gifts are coming to an end. Whether you like it or not, Phil. And you can criticize America for being an evil empire and isolationist. Fine. I can live in a world where you suffer from cognitive dissonance. That's your shortcoming, not mine. Anyway, that was fun. Did you guys enjoy that? Oh my goodness, that was fun. North Carolina. Yeah, Carolina's nice. Virginia's okay. Arkansas does nothing for you. Upstate New York is beautiful. Yep. But it's New York. Canada can be better than the U.S. We'll see, Pierre. Or Pablo Charlie. Got to ask why red state's the poorest, though. That Pablo Charlie, that's utter nonsense. That's utter nonsense. Texas is not a poor state. Florida's not a poor state. Ohio's not a poor state. These are among the wealthiest and most successful states in the union. So stop the nonsense. Ronaldo starts streaming after you, and it's already in the stream. I know who. Okay, Bill, I got it. The issue with the ANC. Colonel's getting heated. Yep. Now, I think MK would disrupt the Sona. I don't think so. I mean, they'll probably growl and make noise, but they're not going to do what the EFF get up and rush the stage. That's not going to happen. I have been to Jacksonville, Florida. It's a beautiful town. Very successful. It's a shipping town. Yep, been to Jacksonville. Absolutely. Been to Jacksonville, been to Tallahassee, been to Miami, been to Tampa Bay, been to Daytona, been to Cape Canaveral, been all over Florida. I have no use for it. Nothing. Exactly, Fleshin. I don't know why South Africans, but see, here's that's the rub. That's the rub, Fleshin. That's the rub. It's a Sunday, so we're going longer. That's the rub. When we suggest that the gravy train will be coming to an end, well, who are you to demand? We're not demanding anything. You can send your UAVs and your military equipment on the Lady Yard to a sanctioned Russian ship all you want. Because first off, it wasn't a UN sanction. It was a European and US sanction. So it's not even international. So that's your prerogative. But don't expect us to not take offense. You can run around and go, vaccine apartheid, all you want, and call us racist. When we give you $711 million frickin' dollars to Aspen Pharmacare so you can make manufacture a vaccine, and you've done none of that. Where'd the $711 million go? You think I forget this? I don't forget this. $711 million given to Aspen Pharmacare. And the recipe, was it Moderna or the other one, Pfizer? I don't remember. One of the recipes, the chemical makeup for the vaccine, and the subterfuges, and all the equipment shipped to South Africa to make jabs for Africa. And how many doses have you delivered? Can somebody show me a delivery receipt for jabs from Aspen Pharmacare to Africa for COVID or any other disease? Can somebody please show me that? 711 million, that is 15 billion rand. Gone. What about the $4.3 billion given by the IMF and the World Bank in the summer of 2020 during COVID? Gone. What about the $285 million given by the African Development Bank to South Africa in the summer of 2020? Gone. $5.3 billion from those entities and more given. And the ANC ate all of that money. All of that money. Plus the $711 million. But Zero Ramaphosa, vaccine apartheid. No, moron, dipshit, squirrel, freaking Mindir Pala. You chose intentionally to not participate in the development of those jabs. The Brits did it. The Americans did it. And we spent tens of billions of dollars to develop those jabs during Operation Warp Speed. And I'm not advocating for or against Warp Speed. I'm just telling you the facts. We took the risk. And when you scumbag, race-hustling pieces of human filth ran around, oh, they're experimenting on Africans. They're a bunch of racists. They're experimenting. Lies, lies, and more lies. Who were the people who volunteered for those vaccine trials? White Americans overwhelmingly and white Brits. That's who volunteered. They were the guinea pigs whose lives were put in risk. They were the ones. They were the ones. Not black Africans. What a load of horse shit. Vaccine apartheid. You chose to participate in the UN's failed COVAX scheme. Call it what you want. Supposed to acquire all these jabs for Africa. Acquired virtually none. You intentionally chose. You kept your well-developed pharmaceutical industry in South Africa out of the entire process. Why didn't Aspen Pharmacare sign up with Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson to participate in that research? Because you're lazy shits. You sit back and suck and suck and suck and call the people you're draining of their life-giving nourishment racist. Screw you, Cyril, and your evil cabal. I'm sick of it. And I've been a lone voice in the wilderness calling out your hypocrisy. Guess what? There's a new sheriff in town. And his best friend is a South African. Do you think you're going to escape the wrath of Donald Trump for long? Wake up. Well, that was fun. As USA turned off the tap, they will just squeeze it out of the rest of us. That's the sad part, Nick. And as I said, the whole problem with all this is that the people who suffer are South Africans. Especially the people who suffer are poor South Africans. That's the sad part about all this. And the ANC doesn't care. Dodgy Raj says stupidity equals donating to South Africa. What's this? They're not gone. What's this? They're not gone. They're in Squirrel's Couch. Says people go back and look at the picture they used on the note. What's this? Danny says, why CIA let the Black Liberation Movement South Africa be confiscated by KGB and actually support a communist leadership? Well, Danny, I say that, look, you attribute a lot of efficacy and power to the CIA that it doesn't have, and it's never had. I've worked with the CIA. I'm an intelligence officer, and I've worked with the CIA. And I got to tell you that the things that people claim to see. Look, Jason Bourne, yeah, there's a couple of those people. But that's not the CIA. That's not its capabilities. The CIA's track record is spotty at best in Chile, in Iran, in the Congo, in a number of places. The CIA's record is very spotty. In Angola. So here's 1975. The CIA has an option. They can back Jonas Savimbi, the MPLA, or Holden Roberto's FLN. Who do you think they picked? Holden Roberto's FLN, the Front for the National Liberation of Angola. Seriously? They hire a bunch of idiot mercenaries. They invade from the Congo. They get one firefight, and most of their troops ran away. Took heavy casualties, and that was it. That was the end of it. Meanwhile, Savimbi fights a war for decades on his own with South African clandestine help, and then later with U.S. clandestine help. And only is tracked down after being an ass by not going out of the bush and into the ballot box. He didn't like the election results, and he said, I'm going to mess around with it. Manuel from Mantech just subscribed. Thank you, Manuel. Appreciate that. Yep. So, yeah, CIA. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you saying the CIA let the liberation movement be co-opted by the KGB? Well, there's a very good reason for that. Same reason that Giap and Ho Chi Minh turned to the Soviet Union. Ho Chi Minh tried to turn to the United States in the 1950s. And we had an American Army officer, major, who was murdered. Well, not murdered, died in traffic accident, whatever, died in Vietnam, who was there to negotiate with them and see what would come of it. Now, I'm not saying we ever would have supported him, but he was in favor of, working with Ho Chi Minh, not because they were communists, because they weren't communists at that stage. They were just trying to liberate. We didn't do it. And look what happened. We got sucked into Vietnam, the French mess there in Indochina. Yeah, and what a horrific tragedy. 58,000 dead Americans and hundreds of thousands of dead Vietnamese as a consequence of our involvement there and in Kampuchea. And what a total disaster. That's where things started going wrong, was Vietnam. Yep, that's where it all started to go wrong. Oh, boy, what else we got here? So, Danny, I hope I answered your question. Jacksonville is a criminal zone. They can't even handle it. Worse than Cape Flats. Not the Jacksonville I've been to. As USA turn off tab. Okay, I got that already. Okay. Michael van Oswegen says, Michael van Oswegen would like to hear your opinion on Gate McKenzie's intentions, benevolent dictatorship. I have mixed feelings because I agree in most of what he says. Michael, I'm not sure. I haven't heard Gate McKenzie's comments, and I've been promised that I'll be getting Gate on as a guest. We'll see if that'll happen. I hope so. Fingers crossed. Because I tried to reach him a few years back when he formed the PA, and I had no success. But now I have an inside track, so we'll see if I get Gate on. But I haven't heard that. Benevolent dictator. Look, I've joked for years that people said, well, now I'm not 25 anymore, but what do you want to be in life? I said I want to be a benevolent, benign dictator of a small African country, and the top of my list are Lesotho and Swaziland. That's what I've said for years. And my point was that, I would like to go into a place like that and rule as an autocrat while extending liberties to people and ensuring that the country progresses, then leave the stage, joking around. But no, I don't know what Gate McKenzie said about that, so I really can't comment on other than I appreciate what he's saying. But look at the problem of benign autocrats, benign dictators. Paul Kagame is arguably one of those people. He ended the genocide by invading his country and chasing the genocideers into the Eastern Congo back in 1994 as the country was butchered. He had no choice. And he won with an incredibly small force and a little bit of backing from Rwanda or Uganda. Did an amazing job. Thank you, Khalif van Grauen. Yeah, did an amazing job. And then turned Rwanda around. Look at Rwanda in 1994. Look at South Africa in 1994. In 1994, South Africa had a functioning infrastructure, had functioning military, functioning institutions. The roads worked. The rails worked. The economy was available. Now South Africa had the shackles of apartheid sanctions removed from it in 1994 and majority leadership and a chance to succeed. And what did they do? They squandered it. South Africa has done this. It went slightly up and then it's done this ever since. What has Rwanda done? Rwanda started from nothing. A huge portion of their population was butchered. They had to start from scratch. They are one of the most dynamic economies in all of Africa. They allow free trade. It's easy to do business there. But don't criticize the government. Don't think you have free speech. Don't think you can oppose the government. It doesn't work that way. And at some point, that becomes a drag on society and a drag on the economy. If people can't freely express their ideas and contribute in the way they like because they're censored or oppressed, you can only go so far. And this is China's problem. China ran into this problem. China continues to oppress its population, and it's reached a limit on what it can do effectively. So, but that's a real problem for Rwanda. And Kagame, if he left 10 years ago, same thing. Would have been greatly remembered. If Museveni left 10 or 15 years ago, he'd be remembered. But all Museveni is going to be remembered for is being an autocrat in the end. And Kagame may not be remembered for being an autocrat, but it's certainly not good for his reputation, what's going on, or the people of Rwanda at this stage. Okay? All right, where else we had here? In the Netherlands, they have a prosperous city in Curacao called Willemstad, very prosperous. Yeah, that's where Sidney Ponson is from. Sidney Ponson. Used to play baseball for the Americans. A lot of Dutch live there, Curacao. UK doesn't care about its people. Yeah, no, they don't. Certainly not Keir Starmer. All right, so we read through some of the comments. We've gone for 2+ hours. Wow, folks, didn't realize we've been doing this long. 100 people still here. Wow, you guys are awesome. It's a Sunday, so we're just chilling, relaxing, maxing, having a good time here. I hope that you guys enjoyed the mini rants. I haven't done a rant in a while. You can see, though, because people get excited. Oh, my gosh, Chris, your blood pressure. Oh, my gosh, don't get so excited. It's all just for effect. Right back down here. Do you have any thoughts on Burkina Faso? I do, Gert Janssen van Rensburg. I do. Burkina Faso has a lot of problems, and it's self-inflicted. Burkina Faso's immature security state was unable to protect its citizens, and that left an opening for jihadists coming in from neighboring states of Mali and Niger, and Nigeria to a lesser extent, a little further off. But coming in from there and causing chaos and havoc, and that's where it started in the northern part of Burkina Faso, and it spiraled out of control. Burkina Faso was never a target of terrorists until a decade ago. And then it became a target of terrorists. And not because the government is doing anything wrong. It's just because these people are sick ghouls who want to rule in their own fashion. They love hanging homosexuals from trees, throwing them off roofs, forcing women to wear clothing to hide who they are, to demean their humanity, and applying their Sharia law. But that's not what Burkinabe need. What's this? Ibrahim Traore is getting his ass handed. Okay. UK King doesn't care either. Yeah, what does he care about? Well, Pablo, Willemstad, Curacao is part of your colonial empire, is it not? You lost South Africa, you lost Indonesia, but you still have Curacao. You lost it. Well, no, we got him from Denmark, the Virgin Islands. Yeah, we bought him from Denmark. I've come to realize the biggest problem anywhere in the world is that people's perception of reality are compulsively filtered through the screening mesh of what they want to. Yeah. Or is that your statement, or someone named Travis Walston? Shalom, your point is, I think, valid and has merit. People see things through the lens they want to see things through. So, for instance, I want Trump to succeed because I want America to succeed. So I have to be very cautious. Also, I was asked for my CV to be nominated to be for a role in the Trump administration. So, you don't want to piss people off when you are looking to do something. Anyway, my point is that I have to be very careful not to automatically censor my comments and criticize Trump, and I haven't. I've made an intentional effort to make sure that if he's because I promised I would hold the Trump administration to account, and I'm doing that. On the mentioning of DEI during the press conference, the chaotic rollout of the freezing of foreign aid, which caused all kinds of chaos because they didn't put explicit instructions in there for people who are too stupid to read to follow. I've criticized that. So I'll hold them to account. But you're right. People glom on to what matches their worldview. Yep. A lot of people do. Some people try to be objective. Colonel, have you ever traveled to Patagonia? No, I have not. I've never been to South America, ever. Bianca. And the only places in South America that even remotely appeal to me are Argentina and Chile. I'd like to do Chile. I was going to go to Chile a couple years ago for the World Cup qualifier between the U.S. and Chile, rugby, but I couldn't get good approval to go because they had stupid lockdown restrictions, and so I wasn't able to go. I was also going to go to the Bermuda Tens a few years ago, but I couldn't go there because of stupid restrictions. Yeah, so it kind of sucked. Think about the amount of data out there. People don't even read their own history. When you look at the generation now, they want sound bites. Yeah. Owen Brailsford, thank you for your subscription. Yeah, people just don't want to, they don't want to, Earl, like the message to the ANC Colonel. Oh, thank you for that, Earl Abraham Koch. You're welcome. Yeah, goldfish have greater attention spans than some people. Look, it's true. I mean, we're kind of hardwired. I mean, we're hardwired for certain things. But we've trained and adapted our physiques, our physical characteristics to meet our needs, and we've taken the tools we've been handed, these, and we've turned it into a modern world from being chased by saber-toothed cats, and trying to avoid being eaten by lions and leopards on the Serengeti, into the modern world where we launch rocket ships into space and we send astronauts into space and leave them there if we're Boeing. When do the astronauts come back? Elon Musk, please save us. To medicines that defeat bacteria, to medicines that deal with viral infections, to life-saving techniques to protect life and limb, to extend life, to entertain ourselves, to communicate, to be artistic, and enhance the quality of life. Tercia Marshall, thank you, Tercia. Yeah, for your subscription. It's truly amazing how we've adapted ourselves. But now we're coming to an age where we are adapting in a different fashion, where everything is 3 seconds of this, 3 seconds of that. But to be fair, it takes a lot to be an informed person and keep on top of things. So, I mean, most people are like,
what were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard.
So, I mean, this is what we're entertained by. So, Kash Patel spoke for God knows how many hours in front of the Senate committee. Ted Cruz asked him legitimate questions. The Democrats are attacking him unrealistically. And by the way, the Democrats are just bigots, racist, and homophobes. They attack the Trump nominees who are Indian. They attack the Trump nominees who are women. They attack the Trump nominees who are Latino. They attack the Trump nominees who are gay. But if a Republican did that and actually asked them questions of substance and merit, they would be called homophobes, racist, and misogynist. But not when Democrats do it. And they don't even attack them on merit. They just attack them on their nonsense stuff. But this is a video on TikTok where this guy is he's probably a good guy, but he's sitting around chewing some food, listening to Kash Patel's video. And this is what passes for entertainment.
Once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Now, how many days in advance were you working?
So, I mean, that's what we do for entertainment.
Ready to have some fun? You need to.
Hi there, TikTok. My name's Heidi, and I hate jumping into the middle of all this. I really do. I was going to jump into some other stuff here in the future. Now that we have our free speech back. And so I didn't want to get into this. But I feel like...
So I think that's a person that's actually pro or is anti, pro control of the borders. I think she's a lesbian based on the way that that's drawn up. But that's what passes for entertainment. Argentina recruited South African farmers. Yeah, no, I'm familiar with the story, Bianca. I know about it, but they don't speak Afrikaans anymore. And some of them are so mixed with locals that you barely know, except from surnames, who they are. No ANC apologists, but 1994 we had a functioning infrastructure, but only for 10% of the population. That's actually not true. THR33. That's a myth that's been spread for decades by people who have a political agenda. So you didn't have a functioning infrastructure and the majority of the population was denied services. That's simply not true. Services were often inferior and many places simply did not have services, but that's because people went and spread and built informal settlements in places that were not in traditional settlements. And as far as the argument about people being denied things, well, that kind of flies in the face of the reality here. So if all black South Africans had no access to infrastructure, no access to schools, no access to education and such, how in the world did Zweli Mkhize go to school? Zweli Mkhize went to school in South Africa, primary school, secondary school. He went to university, not in Switzerland, in South Africa. He studied medicine in South Africa. Dr. Willem Kesey became a practicing physician, not in Sweden, but in South Africa. Dr. Willem Kesey was a successful physician in South Africa, not in post-apartheid South Africa, but in apartheid South Africa. One case. We can list dozens, hundreds, thousands of cases. Now, that doesn't abrogate the fact that the vast majority of South Africans didn't have access to the formal economy and were treated as menial labor and had their rights taken away from them, were suffering indignation. But see, now the leftists in here in the conversation are going to hear what they want to hear and not the facts. I've laid the facts on the table. There is truth in both sides. Simply painting a broad brush and saying that only the whiteys came out. I mean, how in the world did Herman Mashaba become a multimillionaire under apartheid? Was he complicit with the apartheid state? Did he work for the secret police? Did he have spies and that's how he was able to build a business, become so wealthy under apartheid? Please explain that to me. That's two examples. And the list goes on and on and on. So anyway, where are we at there? Would be honest if you would rather live in the US, red state, or Liechtenstein if you had unlimited money. Friedel Hansen. Live in a red state or Liechtenstein if you had money. I would prefer to live in Wyoming, which is a red state. King of Kings, thank you for your subscription. That's a fact, Pablo Charlie. That's a red state. So what's your point? What's this Trudeau's actions? I watched a YouTube video in South Africa says it's growing up in Argentina. So many generations be living there. Some of the older folk can still speak. I didn't see anyone. I heard him try to speak Afrikaans. It was worse than mine. Light Rain says, many times we discussed the Colonel's delivery. He can rage for target effect and placid the next second. It's a lovely effect. Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I do. It's for effect. Do you honestly think that I'm that angry about South Africa? I'm concerned, but am I that angry? No. It's for effect so that people are paying attention. And people don't like it, that's fine. Yes, Charles, how did Nelson Mandela become a lawyer? How did Mahatma Gandhi become a lawyer and practice law? Institute for Race Relations. What about that? What about that? Which you see, 6H2, you throw text out there. It's not helpful, man. You got IR. You tell me Institute for Race Relations. Colonel should become a televangelist with his fiery delivery. Gave him a bursary to study. Gave him a bruise. They punched him to study law. Okay, but you're missing the point, H2, 6H2. It isn't a question of whether Mandela had money to study law and the Institute for Race Relations gave it to him. He studied law in South Africa. Not abroad, not like Thabo and Becky at Oxford. He studied in South Africa. So this fairy tale of brushing over everything was wonderful under apartheid or everything was terrible under apartheid is not the truth. It's somewhere in the middle. The truth of the matter is that all South Africans didn't have free speech. No South Africans have free speech. Some had more equal speech, but nobody had free speech. You don't have free speech today. Try using the K word. See how far that gets you. That's not free speech. Harming someone's dignity with words is not a crime. Calling it a crime is the act of a cowardly government and a cowardly society. People who use offensive profanity simply get ignored. They get ostracized. They're not part of the public discussion. We don't talk to them. You don't put them in prison. Only cowards put them in prison. Yeah, that's the bottom line. So, yeah. Just have to wait for the next time the Dems get to power, then we can go there, says Dick Jordan. Yeah. Yeah, you did live under what was fair, and I've said it, security state, a police state. From about 1979 until the end of apartheid, South Africa wasn't governed by its parliament. If you think it was, you're living in a fantasy world. South Africa's government was governed by the security state. The police, intelligence, the military, and the presidency. They ruled in imperial fashion over South Africa. They made all the decisions. The parliament was just a rubber stamp. That's why in 1984, when they created the Indian portion of Parliament and the colored portion of Parliament, it's just window dressing. But so was all of Parliament. And they complain, oh, that was window dressing. The whole Parliament was window dressing. The country was run by an elite cabal of people who ran the country, for good or bad. That's what was going on. And that's what happened. So, but people don't want to recognize that. Yeah, they would ban you. Remember that? People got banned. People got imprisoned for their speech, anything they said against the government. Helen Zilla. They've forgotten about Helen Zilla. Helen Zilla was a courageous journalist who uncovered what actually happened to Steve Biko dying in police custody, beaten to death. It's exposed in the press. She risked her life and limb. She risked being banned. Helen Zilla. That's who she was, an investigative journalist. But they forgot all about that. They forget all about that. Because, she's just a hoe because she only has men in her cabinet, the Western Premier or Western Cape. Yeah, no, the selective memory and the cognitive dissonance of people is funny. It's like, oh, the DA is just the ANC, it's just the National Party. No. The National Party tried to merge with what became the DA, but it didn't work, and so they left and joined the ANC. The National Party, the new National Party, merged with the ANC because of a failed merger with the Democratic Alliance because they didn't believe in the democratic principles. But they love the autocratic principles of the ANC, and von Skalkvik took you into the ANC. So the legacy of the African National Congress is not simply a period of fighting for rights in South Africa. It's also being part of the apartheid legacy, because they are a part and parcel of it. Yep. They shouldn't be blamed for it today, but that's the truth. Yep, she was one of the original anti-apartheid journalists. Still learning from all you smart guys and gals. I do think Mandela was abroad, maybe just lived there for some time. Have to Google. AGORA has run a bursary scheme since 1935. Mandela was awarded a bursary in 1947, completed legal studies. Well, there you go. Black Sash, Helen Suzman. Speaking to your audience, Mandela's story is very interesting. Yeah, he is an interesting story. If you haven't studied Nazi Germany, you'll understand how South Africa worked, especially when it came to propaganda. Apartheid stories have plenty of parallels with communism in Poland. When the Iron Curtain was still up, I was too young to remember firsthand, but from stories. Yep. The good thing is educated black folks and middle-class folks at large getting hot full. Yeah, that's true. The ANC dropped to where they are, not entirely owing to MK. MK ate away at EFF support and other smaller parties, and they took some ANC support. That's a fact. That's how they got the 14% nationally. But the reason they did that is in no small measure because a lot of people simply had enough of the ANC. Look at, and I don't know if they went to MK, but black middle-class voters abandoned the ANC over their stupidity just before the election. Yep. Thor 33 says non-white schools had a limited curriculum that prepared students for manual labor and low-skilled jobs. They had to really try hard to extend their education. I'm not disputing that, Thor 33, but you're also not admitting that Zweli Mkhize, Herman Mashaba, and hundreds of thousands, if not a few million, black South Africans got the education they needed to succeed in South Africa and did so despite the challenges. That's my point. Yeah, I got that. I've got here a book, Good Morning, Mr. Mandela. Yep. All right. But truth be told, Colonel DA failed the main supporters in the Western Cape, the colored communities. She never had intent for our people to progress under her leadership. Instead, bottleneck our progress. Look, I mean, Earl Abraham Koch, I'm not here defending the Democratic Alliance. If, in fact, you watch my recent videos, you'll think that I hate the DA. No, I'm just treating them fairly based on their underperformance here and their actions. Every time the DA says, Rob Hertzhoff was on the program, and Rob says, you have to admit that the Western Cape is run really well. And I said, well, yeah, relative. It's a low bar. For all the talk about how well Cape Town is run, we have issues in the Cape Flats. We have horrible crime in Stellenbosch and elsewhere. It's a problem that the DA inherited but has not improved on in 15 years or more. So look, I'm honest about the DA. I told people to vote for them a few years ago, but that's because I thought they were the only hope for South Africa because no one was voting for smaller parties, and you got to get the ANC out. But yeah, so look, Earl, I'm not. If you think I'm defending the DA, but I'm also going to give them compliments when they do the right thing. That's how I do business. That's how I roll. I don't know that the DA doesn't care about colored voters. 1/3 of its base is colored, and its stronghold is in the stronghold of color. It's the Western Cape. So it's foolhardy of them to ignore colors. But I would agree with you that there's not a big focus on colors, but that's because I don't think the DA focuses on any ethnic group. You know, the perception is that they're a whites party and that they only care about whites, but that's nonsense. That's a false attribution. The DA says they're non-racial, and I think they are non-racial in their actions. Their actions aren't, hey, we got to protect whitey's farms. No, they're like, we got to protect property for all South Africans. So listen, I appreciate where you're coming from in the Western Cape, and you feel like you've been abandoned or not served by them. And that's Pete Fenta. Thank you for joining. That's why Gabe McKenzie's had such success. Relative. I mean, he got 2.5% of the vote. It's not like he got 10%. If he got 10%, then we'd be talking. But 2.5% was still impressive nonetheless in a short period of time. The Patriotic Alliance has come from nowhere. He's taken that party and taken it somewhere. So, no, but you're welcome, Earl. And bye a donkey for being here. I assume you speak Afrikaans. I don't know Kapsa, so... and Pablo Charlie loves Phil Craig. Well, Phil and I have known each other for some time. I've interviewed Phil many times, including in person at the Afrikaans at the Tal Monument in Paarl. We did an interview there. It was pretty cool. Gentrification is policy of the DA handbook. That's a statement, not a fact. There's no handbook. Phil Craig finished his big walk today. I didn't know he's being a big walk. Is this for Cape Independence? Yeah, and Charles just asked the right question. Did every white person go to university? Does every white person own hectares of land? Does every white person own an estate? Does every white person have servants? No. That's not the case at all. So the thing about university that irritates me with South Africans in particular is this expectation, because it's the same in America, that everyone's entitled to university. And you get racists who try to make the argument that, well, if you don't get to go to university, you're denying black people. That's nonsense. Less than 1% of human beings ever attend 1 minute of university course, let alone attend or graduate university. Thank you, Nico, for subscribing. Less than 1% of all human beings, 8 billion people on this planet, less than 1% of us ever go to university in our lifetimes. In America, that figure is significantly higher. The figure is somewhere around 1/3 of Americans, Volmarans, thank you for subscribing. 1/3 of Americans attend university at some point. And if you add in technical schools and specialized training, it gets a little bit higher. That's unusual, but that's because of the great wealth and success of this country and its incredible education system we built out from the bottom up, not the top down. The problem in South Africa is they're trying to build it from the top down, and they're ruining education. They've just made it worse with the Bella Bill, which takes away all authority from local school boards and is going to destroy education. Bottom line. So, it irritates me that people think they're entitled to university. You don't even need university. Most of these people going to university in South Africa aren't getting anything useful to contribute to society, and that's a fact. That's a fact. Some are, but there's too much wokeism going on at universities. Whether it's in South Africa or it's in America, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. So there you have it. Don't want servants on my property, says Chris. I don't have servants. The only domestic help I had in Africa I was kind of forced into was having a gardener, just for someone to keep, particularly in the tropical zones along the equator in Uganda. I needed a gardener just to clean up the dam because it was just too much. They gave me a property I didn't ask for, so I didn't have a choice. I can't only go where the government puts me because they have to screen it for security purposes and for where it's safe to put diplomats at. So I had to take what I was given. I had no say in the place, and so I had to hire a gardener for this massive yard that was a full-time job. I didn't go to Africa to be a gardener. I went to Africa to, make policy decisions and influence events and make decisions, hunting terrorists and doing military training. And so I had to hire a gardener. When I was in Botswana, I didn't have a gardener. And I kind of wish I had hired one because they would have done a better job than I did. Spent too much damn time trimming bushes and weeds and all this crap in my yard. In the middle of the freaking desert in Kalahari, I got to cut all these weeds. It was annoying. I lived in Arizona, the desert, nothing grew. Everything grew in Botswana. Good God. And that damn pool, I didn't want to pull all the effort I had to put in that pool to keep it clean. No, I don't hire domestics. That's for rich people. Rich, nouveau riche black cadres and white folks, not for me. Anyway. Jean-Pierre Reaper, Landman, thank you for subscribing. Most white people cannot afford university. Many qualify but cannot afford it. Yep, I don't want servants on my property. University is useless to me, says Pablo. Happening to my mom at the moment. They raised the property market value a lot, so the pensioners can't afford the property tax. Yeah, and that's not the true value of the property, so then they can confiscate the property from people. It happens the world over. It's a horrific practice. Education should not be free from grade 1 to grade 12. Should be free. Okay, Charles and I are on the same boat in this. That's why he's the voice of reason. Free from grade 1 to grade 12, not tertiary education. Talk about putting the cart before... Exactly. They want people to pay school fees to go to primary school, but then the taxpayer has to pay to give people... So here's the reason why I have this problem with education university level. Ladies and gentlemen, If you attend a university, in America, certainly the case in Europe, in America, I can tell you for a fact, your lifetime earnings are 3, 4, 5, or more times larger than someone that never goes to university. So imagine this. We all pay for public school through taxes. Well, land property owners do. And then kids go through public school. You graduate, now you want to go to university. And now you expect us to pay for it, to forgive your loans and to give you grants, and you're not even poor? That's unfair. For the poor people, level the playing field, sure, that's fine. I was one of the poor people. I get it. But now you go to university. You graduate university, and you're going to make 5 times what my neighbor makes who never went to university. You want him to pay for your student loan? Why aren't you paying for your student loan? You're making 5 times over your lifetime what he's going to make, and you're getting it for free? You're privileged, you're elite, whether you came from a poor background or a black background or a gay background or whatever background, you're now a university graduate. You have a credential that very few human beings on this planet have. To be fair, 25, 30% of Americans have that credential, but that's bachelor's. Go to the master's degree, number shrinks. Go to the PhD, it's even smaller. Almost nobody has those credentials. You have unique qualifications that give you access to the global marketplace, United Kingdom, Canada, Singapore, Japan, all these places you can go with your skills. You study finance at university, those places you can work. Canary Wharf, woo, make a fortune over there. You access to the world that the local plumber, the local dairy farmer, the local restaurant manager will never have access to, never have that kind of income. And you want them to pay for your education? No, that's arrogant. That's selfish. That's bullshit's what that is. That's bullshit. Paying for you to be literate and able to think and chew gum at the same time and have basic computational skills that allow you to function in the workforce, that's our responsibility. As a polity, we must pay for that to educate the next generation so they're functionally literate in our literate in our society. That's a necessity. And that's for the common good. Just like we pay our government to provide for our national defense. I have no problem with that. But expecting me to pay for your education when you have the means to do it, just because you want it for free, and you feel entitled to it because you're a black woman or a gay man or a white man, you're full of it. You're not entitled to anything. You're entitled to nothing except sitting down, shutting up, and getting an attitude adjustment. Universities and technicons have lost their value. I did my studies 20 years when the degree was still worth it. Yeah, no, I got you. We've got professional students in South Africa now. They study fields until they're in the mid-30s. Yeah, exactly, Charles. That's another problem. And we have that in America, too. People go to university forever. I knew people who never went and got a job till they're in the mid-30s. You seriously, halfway through your life, you haven't had a job? Give me a break. My first paying job was 18 or 17 years old at university, getting paid minimum wage, $3.35 an hour. I had jobs before that, informal, working on a farm, baling hay, yada, 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 cleaning the muck out of stalls, things like that. But my first formal job was working at a university at $3.35 an hour minimum wage. Bussing tables, cleaning up piss on the floor, stuff like that. No, there is no NAFTA. No, sorry, 6H2. You just undermined all your credibility. The North American Free Trade Agreement does not exist. It was rendered obsolete by the U.S. Canada-Mexico Trade Agreement effective 1 July 2020, negotiated by Donald Trump. There is no NAFTA. But I get your point. They're part of a trade agreement. But that trade agreement leaves leeway for putting tariffs on when people behave inappropriately. Stinky says, I didn't go to university and I'm sure I'm doing better than someone who studied some soft degree and now bitches about me. Yeah, exactly. You're a software developer. Stinky, you're probably far better off. Could you make me an app? I need an app that I can put into Slobs, Streamlabs, OBS. I can bring it up as a template so I can bring the clock up from the rugby games and have better graphics. Just asking. Asking for a friend. What people don't talk about is the bloat caused by university administrators. Yeah, you're right, Carl. I talk about it. And I've also talked about the DEI administrators and all the architecture that's gone into raising money for universities. That's all part of the problem. Jesse Hoysaman, welcome to you for subscribing. You need to be clear of those weeds, dude. China will be compliant to the World Trade Organization. And Anthony Moritz just subscribed. Well, thank you for the subscription. Let me take a look and see what we're doing over there on the streams. I'm getting a little bit tired now. I've been at this for over 3 hours today, plus I did production. 26,440. It looks like we're not going to get 27,000 today. Boy, I'm really hoping. I was hoping we get to 25,000 before the end of the month and February, and we got there. Now I'm hoping for 30,000 by next week. Wouldn't that be nice? It's nice to see all the people coming in, and it's so rewarding to see so many people discover the channel for the first time. That's pretty exciting. So Trump was at 8,700 earlier, that video. It's now at 12,700. So another 4,000 since I talked about that, another 30 subscribers from that. Thank you for that. I want to go back and see the original Trump one that was going. Where is it at? It's slowed down. It's 167,000. It's gone backwards. It was over 167,000. Now they're saying it's a little, you guys are messing with me here. YouTube. I think that data hasn't been updated on that video. And the land invasion, let me look on that one. That's from yesterday. That's at, let me see, 63,000. All right, cool beans. Thanks for that. All right, cool. So, all right, guys, we've been at this for 3 hours and 12 minutes. No, Pablo Charlie says, now that he's booming, he'll forget us, folks. I have not forgotten anybody. Not forgotten anybody. The Right Reverend Rawhide, the Brew, Fiona, Erica, Hendo, Dylan, Val, Leovin, all the Jansa von Rensburgs, Marilyn Brokenshaw. I haven't seen Marilyn lately. I hope she's okay. Yeah, Chris Marie, Shawnee, those who came over from the prepper community. I haven't forgotten anybody. It's not NAFTA 2.0. It's a different treaty altogether. Pablo Charlie, recent. Yeah, there's Marilyn. I was worried about Marilyn. I haven't heard from Marilyn and Lindsay in a while. That's reassuring. I haven't forgotten anybody, folks. I haven't forgotten anybody. Including the panel beater that we had on the program a few years ago. Yep. No, it's just a lot of people to know, a lot of people to talk about. I haven't forgotten you guys. And if this channel were ever to explode, which I would hold my breath, I don't think it's going to happen. But if it did explode, I'm not going to forget people. Still try to do as much as I can and see as many people as I can. I mean, I'm only doing this live stream. I mean, look, I'm not gaining subscribers from this. Oh, we got 200 likes and 113 people watching this now after 3 hours, which is pretty awesome. And 12 new members because 2 of my members bought memberships and 2 other people signed up on their own. It's not about that. I mean, I'm getting 500 subscribers, 1,400 subscribers from videos I'm preparing right now. I could spend all my time doing that instead. And there's Drian. Drian and Lazan. I haven't forgotten them either. They asked me for advice early on, and I hope I steered them in the right direction. I think I did. That was a while ago now. Gosh, back in 2020. Yeah, no, I'm not going to forget people. Yeah. So I got my first part-time job at 17, Mr. Price. Oh, Bianca, I hate Mr. Price. It always smells like a tire factory. Woof. Look at Pablo Charlie looking for attention again. I just said I hadn't forgotten about him. He comes back with he forgot us. Fiona's sons came to visit her a few days back. Well, that's awesome. Ron is in from Bloemfontein. I haven't forgotten Ron. Yeah. So that's nonsense. Tariq Briscoe, can we discuss the Cape Peninsula and the trade route connecting China to Europe? South Africa's right in the middle of that. USA would have interested in gaining control. No, what are you talking about? The trade route runs through the Suez Canal. Almost no trade goes around the Cape of Good Hope. By comparison, the Suez Canal handles the vast majority of that traffic. Even when we saw the Suez Canal was closed for a couple weeks because one of the ships hit the side of it and they had to shut it down, it didn't result in a big gain. And South Africa has ruined, the ANC has ruined its advantage when it comes to the Cape trade route. South Africa's ports are the worst performing on the planet. Not my analysis. That comes from people who evaluate ports around the globe. They rank order the global ports, the major ports in the world. And South Africa's ports are the worst performing ports on the planet. Durban's a disaster. Port Elizabeth is a disaster. Cape Town is a disaster. Yeah, Richards Bay is okay, mostly because they want to export coal from there. But no, the ANC has negated any advantage that might come from having access around there. And the shipping doesn't go to Europe all the way around Africa. It goes to the Suez Canal. So I'm not sure what you're talking about there. I get your point. Adrian says, yes, you did. I started my own business here and something I would never been able to do in South Africa. That's awesome, Drian. Do I get my cut? How many pulla am I getting from that? Israel may build a second canal even bigger than Suez. Wow, that would be something. 7th south, but they'd have to go through Gaza though. So that's probably why. That's why they want Gaza. The Israelis want Gaza so they can build a canal from the Mediterranean to Eilat. That's why. No, he's not publicly traded, I'm sure. 8:15 in Europe. Well, that's not late. So, Tariq, what do you want me to discuss? I mean, is that enough of discussion, or you got more questions? Good morning, Chris. Oh, yes, there's an Australian viewer popping in. It's 6:18 in the morning in Sydney, and you're in Melbourne, if I'm not mistaken there, Chris. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Perth, so I don't think we have anybody from Perth watching, but I don't think we have any viewers in Perth. Anyway. Good morning, Chris. Lots to watch if you go back, if you have time today. It's Monday for you. You already, Chris, calling from the future. Yeah, Bosch Zebra says, wow, a 3-hour live stream like back in the day. It was back in the day. I used to have 3 hours, 5-hour live streams. Remember that the interview with Giselle? I had Giselle on, and we were on for like 3.5, 4 hours. She had to keep running back and forth to take care of El Jose, but we had Johan on there. It was, wow, that was something else. Nintendo sold fruit and vegetables, 10 years old. That was something. Drian will come on my show and give free cyber advice to folks. Okay. 7 Rand 80 a week. Wow. I was in special signals in the Recce base back in the day, says Charles. Okay, cool. The Ben Gurion Canal Project. I'm not familiar with the 6H2. I'm not surprised, though. Maybe that's why they want Gaza. I mean, the most direct route would be from Eilat up that valley, slicing over, and head over towards Gaza and hit the Mediterranean. That would be the best route to do it, but that would be huge. That would be a huge commitment there. That would cost a lot. Bianca says, you guys are old. Okay, Bianca, since we're old, then you've opened the door. It's not polite to ask a lady her age, but now I'm going to ask you, how old are you, Bianca? Palabora, thank you. Palabora, that I get. I didn't know what the heck Falagat was. Yeah, that's why Gaza's prime real estate. No, Gaza's prime rubble estate. That's what it's rubble estate, not real estate. Sorry, but it's rubble estate. Anyway, just saying. What's this? Oh, hang on. I got a message here. Let me see if it's really important. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Okay, the guy got a hold of me. Okay. All right, the Bernard guy from earlier got in touch with me, so I'll read what he's got to say, okay, when I get a chance. I was a newspaper boy and did extra. I delivered newspapers, Flushing. I delivered Grit, which was America's newspaper back in the day. Grit, published here in Pennsylvania, and I used to deliver Grit. Never forget that. Yep. Nobody does that anymore. Yes, Giselle's house was broken into while she was on the road. Yep. That's why you have to have people there. You can't leave your homes undefended in South Africa. I could go on vacation from here or go travel for business from here, and I do it. But you can't leave your homes unattended in South Africa. You might come back and somebody's occupying it. Then the court won't even let you kick them out. Mining going in Palabora. I didn't know that. Is Giselle a socialite? Nope, she's not a socialite. Giselle is a down-to-earth Burmeisi from Grootfontein in Namibia. That's who she is. Lovely young lady who thankfully has survived a scare with cancer. That's good news. Good news. All right, guys. Wow, 117 people here. This is amazing Sunday. I guess you all are bored. Sold the Cape Argus. Okay. Along with Stumpy, our friend. I assume that Stumpy wasn't the Stumpy that the ANC murdered. Pablo's infamous because of knowing Angry Santa. Yeah, I figured it wasn't him. You're too old for that. That Stumpy was killed in the late 1980s by the mother of the country, Winnie Mandela. Morning Star to the British Communist Party bookshop. Wow, Flushing. That's interesting. Interesting. A lot of us have newspaper delivery in our past. You know, that's pretty wild. Anyone ever do a lemonade stand? I did a lemonade stand in Scranton when I was a kid. Viral Vin says, Stumpy sounds like a nickname you give an amputee. I get where you're coming. Okay, you're right, Bianca. You are just a pup. Okay, you're just a pup. You're in your 40s, man. I love being in my 40s. I did a lot of good in Africa when I was in my 40s. Weenie Mandela. I agree with you there. Yes. Yeah. No, I'll never forget that. Yep. My 40s were awesome. Excuse me. My 20s were awesome. My 30s were pretty good. My 40s were awesome. My 50s were not bad. And now we're starting a new decade. We'll see how that goes. Printing company, Belgium. Never did, never will. Beat you by 8 months, Bianca. I know, got there ahead of you. It's not a race. It's not a race, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a race. It is not. Look, we've been here for so long. Let me see if anything is breaking around the world. Hopefully no planes have crashed or nothing like that. Let me just take a quick look. Instead of going all to my news sites, I'll go to the Google aggregator, which is not my first stop for news. You guys know I spent a lot of money on subscriptions. The Wall Street Journal, Barron's, News 24, Quartz. List goes on and on. Trump's trade could hurt car makers. Yeah, it could. Philadelphia plane crash. Crew members, passengers killed. We know about that. A young boy is surviving after being hit from debris from the plane crash. Wow. Jet companies identified the victims of the ambulance crash. Let's get to that. Third soldier identified in the deadly midair collision over Potomac. And we were talking about that earlier. Let's see. Okay, I need to. They got a video here. I want to see the frickin' images. DC plane crash. College professor, newly engaged pilot among 67 people killed. Yeah, they're not showing me. Let me see if we can. Come on, I'm trying to. Are they going to show us the picture? Because they tricked us here. It made it look like they're going to show us the picture. I'm zipping through the video here to see if... Oh, there we go. That's the pilot. That doesn't look like the person I saw in the... or is that not, maybe not the Army pilot? They say that's the third person identified. I don't know if that's true. That's not it. We got to do the screen here. There we go. So they're saying that's the soldier, the pilot that was in the helicopter was killed. She liked rock climbing, apparently. Now that's a person who was a captain who's been in the Army for what, 5 years, something like that. And she spent a fair portion of that as a White House social aide, as a lieutenant. That's a task much more suited to the Adjutant General Corps, not to an Army aviator. She needs to be out cutting her teeth flying. I'm not sure how many hours she had. They claim she had 500. I don't know if that's true. Jet company identifies the victims in the air crash. The victims are Captain Alejandro Montoya Perales, co-pilot Josu de Jesus Juarez, Dr. Raul Meza Arredondo, Rodrigo Lopez Padilla, Valentina Guzman Murillo, and Lizeth Murillo Ozuna. Yeah. 11 properties suffered significant damage from that plane crash. That's crazy. Yep, that's crazy. Terrible, terrible situation there. Anyway, lots of those situations going on. It's a shame. Don't remember this awesome quote from the Kentucky Fried Movie, The Colonel is building a fighting force of extraordinary magnitude. Nope, I don't remember it. A plane crashed in Fullerton, California. All right, let's take a look at that. We just heard the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, earlier say that flying is safe. Plane crash, California. There you go. Just came up. I didn't even have to finish typing. Airplane door appeared to be open before a crash. Oh, my goodness. Pilot's door was open moments before the plane. What the hell is going on here? It's a kit plane. Okay. All right, here we go. This was published... Oh, that's from yesterday. It's from yesterday. I'm sorry. Okay, this isn't new. NTSB said in preliminary investigation, the pilot had made a series of modifications to the plane doors, which affected its indicator system. Wow. The door latch indicator system supplied with the plane-making kit was comprised of 4 magnetic reed switches. On the accident airplane, it appeared that only 2 switches had been installed, with each mounted in the aft pillars of both doors. As such, the modified system would not have warned the pilot if the forward latch had failed to fully engage. Well, there you go. They didn't install the
equipment correctly on the kit plane. So that was entirely human error. Yeah, the door was open moments before the plane crashed. It killed 2 and injured 19. Wow. Get that out of there. It was a January 2nd crash. That's an old crash. That's not a new one. Huntington Beach. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so that's just dumb. That's dumb. That's laziness and taking the short route. All right. And this is Knock Knock, the good old days. Yeah. No, it's not a Thurwood Spiker Home. That's old. That's old. Tony had a friend who tore his pants while playing Knock Knock. I don't know what's going on there, telling jokes is getting an unsafe business. No, it's a safe business. That's just stupid stuff there. Anyway. All right, folks. 3.5 hours. I think it's time to wrap it up here, don't you? I appreciate the 102 of you still here. Thank you for being here. Have a lovely day. Feel free to go back and watch my content. Some of you are probably waiting to see that. I need to get something to eat. I am starving. I'm famished here. And get some work done for the rest of the day. You all take care. And we'll see what's going on as we work our way through February. Thanks for being here, folks. Spread the word. Share the content on social media. I do appreciate that. And I'll try to get more interesting guests on for you guys. Thanks a lot for being here. I'm knackered now after this show. I'm getting old. Can't do this forever. Cheers. Thanks a lot, everybody.